All right. I think we are live. What is going on, everybody? This is Rand Althor 19, the man with the million, back again with another episode of the Xbox 2 podcast. And with me, as always, is a man who literally just wrote an article as we were waiting to do the show, because that is how he rolls. Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, pal. Fun little leak just before the show started for Alan Wake Remaster. We'll talk about that in a bit, I guess. But yeah, how's you and how's your internet doing today?
It's doing good. You know, I called up yesterday, so we were supposed to do the show. We always aim for Fridays, and we always have Saturday as a backup. And I got up, and I was like, all right, let me put together the show. And I came downstairs, and what do you know? No internet connection. And that has kind of been going off and on recently here in Chicago. One and only, how great is Xfinity and Comcast? And I called them up and I asked, and they said they've been doing maintenance and upgrades in the area, so you know it's intermittent. But I should see better speeds in the future and stuff like that. So yeah,
Do they always say that?
you know, not usually. The only other times I've really when it goes out is because of a bad storm or something. This was like bright sunny day, and you're just like, why is the internet doesn't work? Like, I understand if it's a thunderstorm or something, power outage, right? Like, I get it. It may not always work, but, you know, call them up and they're like, yeah, we're doing maintenance and upgrades, and it'll be spotty for a bit. And it's like, oh, geez. Okay. So, how you doing, buddy? How's your week?
Yeah, not so bad, you know. It's still sort of like stuff going on, waiting for like bigger news to come out. You know, it is. It's sort of like it's sort of that quiet period before everything gets crazy in quarter 3 and all the big games start dropping and everyone has to, like, you know, it's all hands on deck craziness. So I'm just sort of, on the one hand, I want more stuff to write about. On the other hand, I'm kind of enjoying the dip, maybe checking out some other games I've been missing out on and stuff like that. I'm actually reviewing a game that's coming soon that I
Ooh.
can't talk about at the moment that I'm enjoying very muchly. You can probably work out what it is. But the game I'm playing right now kind of slams home to me that we are getting to that time of year now where the bangers start dropping. You know, your Battlefield and your Call of Duties and your Halos and your Forzas and all that kind of stuff. So it's all good in the proverbial hood, as they say, the cool kids and stuff. So that's been me, man. That has been me. So yeah.
You know, I notice I get tagged in a lot of posts. Me and you seem to be joined at the hip on social media a lot. People will tag us and things. And I want to briefly mention the picture that we were tagged in, where it was two guys eating mayo as a competition at a football game in the States. And it literally made me sick.
What is that thing?
I didn't even know that was the thing. That people do at like football games or college football games or whatever it is, where people just they competitive mayo eating, I guess it was. I don't know, but whatever it was, it looked disgusting. I would be throwing up all over the place. And but it's great because people tag us and all that stuff. I'm sure you got tagged in some of the Psychonauts things that I posted yesterday. Microsoft
Yeah, I did.
sent me a care package for Psychonauts 2, and I put the goggles on, and people are like, man, you look like Jez. Are you sure you're not related? Because you recently made your on-camera debut.
It did.
With Lord
I've
Cognito.
been on a few podcasts on camera now, here and there, but yeah, like I don't know, man. Losing 87 pounds kind of makes you a little bit more confident on the camera. Don't know why. Maybe that's got something to do with it, I think. But yeah, fun times, man.
Fun times. I think people want us to be on camera for Xbox 2, and that's probably something we can do in the future. Rand and Jez on camera.
I do think that is the future of the podcast, is on camera. I do think that at some point. But Dude, did you see? Speaking of things we were tagged in on Twitter, did you like my scoop about Kim Kardashian
I
and the
did.
Xbox?
I did like your scoop about Kim Kardashian, and I love that somebody photoshopped Jeff Grubb as Kim Kardashian and you as whoever
The
was,
other one.
yeah, Courtney or whatever her name is.
I
Dude,
think
one
that was
time
Chloe.
she's
I
gonna
think that was
reply to
Chloe
you.
Kardashian.
She's gonna reply to you, and that's gonna be
Dude, I
like
hope
the
so.
biggest moment in your life when
Okay,
she
wouldn't it
recognizes.
wouldn't it be awesome if my stupid memory somehow got Kim Kardashian to endorse Xbox?
Yeah,
Could be a whole new audience.
Could
Whole
be.
new audience for Xbox.
If-
We could get more like sort of like horse riding games and stuff for you, right?
yeah, I would definitely love it. We got a super chat here from Brad. He says, "Jez, you need to show Rand the Halo Skeletor." What's that?
Hello, Skeletor. Oh, is he talking about the new skins? Have you seen
I did see
the
I
skins?
did see the new skins that they 343 showed off for Master Chief Collection. Gotta
What is
say,
that about?
I'm kind of really digging it.
You dig it?
Dude. Yeah, because I'm all for like cool looking stuff, even though like I would never pay for it, right? I would never like spend $5 or $20 on a skin. Like I do appreciate some good looking artwork, and the
Will you buy the battle
ones-
pass?
No, hell no, I'm not buying the battle pass.
Okay.
I don't care about cosmetics in anything. I've never
Right.
bought a battle pass in anything. So even though Halo's my favorite franchise, I am not going to buy the battle. Number one, the battle pass better be coming free with the purchase of the game. At least like the first season's battle pass. Like if you buy, Halo for $60, then you should at least get the first battle pass for free, right?
Mm.
Or if you're a Game Pass Ultimate member, you should get the battle pass for free. Like they need to do some sort of those synergies there. But no, I'm not gonna buy. If I have to buy the battle pass, no, I'm not. Definitely will not buy the battle pass. I will say though, some of those cosmetics, the skeleton face or like the Viking stuff, like really cool armors. If that's what they're gonna do for Halo to make it that outlandish and pretty cool looking, then I'm all for it. You know what I mean?
I see like people being mixed about those things. Like some people are like, oh my god, it breaks the law and stuff like that. But I mean, isn't like the whole lore of the multiplayer like red versus blue? Isn't that like aren't they like training scenarios or something?
Yeah, for the
I can't
most part,
remember.
yeah.
So like if they're just like training scenarios, wouldn't they wear like maybe ridiculous costumes and stuff anyway? Or I don't know. It's not like the multiplayer is lore bound necessarily, is what I'm trying to get at. But if they are gonna go that route, I did tweet that I would like to see some Gears of War skins in Halo. If they're gonna do that. Because there was some Halo skins in Gears of War, so why not?
Yeah,
They're gonna put Killer Instinct skins in there. They've got a huge amount of IP they can tap now. Skyrim skins, Doom skins, Wolfenstein skins. God, sky's the limit, really. They could put Forza skins in there. You could play as a giant walking car, like a transformer. I don't know.
I mean, I do expect a lot of crossover, 100%. There were some leaked helmets. There was, the snowman one, which is just kind of hilarious and just so out of place. But then there was stuff that looked like the power armor from, Fallout. And, come on, Chief has to have like a Doom guy armor set, right? I mean...
Yeah, one of the armors looked inspired by the Doom Sentinels from the new Doom games. The... what do they call them? Are they called the Sentinels? Like the ancient order that fights the demons.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I would imagine they're gonna have a whole bunch of weird and cool looking cosmetics for Halo Infinite. But Flame hits up the super chat and says, "Yeah, the Horizon Forbidden upgrade situation is bad, but what about Game Pass? Come on, it's bad, am I right?" Have a great show, guys. So yeah, we got a lot here to talk about. Actually, quite a few topics. Hopefully we can hit all of these. I'm sure some people will get triggered by some of our opinions or what have you, but it is what it is. But before we get into any of that, can you guys do us a big favor and hit the like button and share this out on social media? Me and Jez would both really appreciate that. Before we get into the topics, Jez, I know you mentioned you're playing a game for review and you can't talk about it, and you're probably still playing Final Fantasy 14 because that's all you really play. Is there anything that you can talk about? game wise?
Well, I've been playing a lot of Pillars of Eternity again this week. Because that is a topic as well. Avowed was in the news this week a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, not necessarily the big news, but in the rumor mill. And Avowed, people talking about Avowed made me think like, oh man, I never actually fully finished Pillars of Eternity. So I started a new save because my PC save was corrupt. So I had to start over again. So this is like the third time I've started over Pillars to try and finish it. This time I'm playing on Xbox, which hopefully will stop my save files from being corrupt, like they got corrupted on PC. And that's basically what I've been playing, man. Pillars of Eternity and the game that I can't talk about, which rhymes with pails of pork pies, almost kind of. So yeah, that's the game I can't talk about. But yeah, you're not into Pillars, right? It's too tactical for Rand.
No,
you don't like tactics games.
No, I'm not a fan of tactics games or RTS or any of that stuff. So yeah, the
fine.
Pillars of Eternity is something I probably never play, but we will get the taste of the Pillars franchise when we play Avowed because it is set in that world. So.
Pillars has, I mean, I totally appreciate that Pillars isn't the right kind of gameplay for a lot of people. Like it's got that classic CRPG gameplay or whatever, but the writing is just so good in Pillars. It is so damn good. It feels like you're reading like a lot of it is text. There are some like major cutscenes have voice acting, but a lot of it is text based. But it's just so well written. It feels like I'm reading like a best-selling novel or something. And the combat is really good once you get to grips with it. Like the stuff you can do, the strategies you can execute and stuff like that. I love it, man. I love those kind of games. And it's the game that sort of feels closest to Dragon Age Origins for me, which is like one of my favorite games of all time. God rest its soul. So yeah, I've been going back through Pillars because I am hyped for Avowed, and we're going to talk about Avowed in a little while. But have you been playing any games, Rand? Have you been playing anything at all?
Actually,
yes,
no, I haven't been. So I finished Psychonauts 2. An amazing game. Everybody should check it out on whatever platform you have, unless, of course, the Switch. Play it on Game Pass. And sometimes after I play a really cool game, I spend a lot of time in because I think I put like 30 hours into Psychonauts 2. I don't know if anybody else feels like this sometimes, but like you kind of just like don't want to play anything, like because of how awesome the thing you just played, you just experienced. So what I've been doing for the past week, since I haven't played anything, and this happens from time to time, I've been binge watching one of the shows I've had in my list on Netflix for a while, and I'm on the last season. So yeah, I started season 1, got to season 6 of BoJack Horseman. It's a show I've wanted to watch for a bit. I heard a lot of great things about it. So pretty much every night I just kind of sit down and watch, like, I don't know, maybe a full season of the show or half a season one night, half a season the next night. So yeah, no gaming this week for me, but that's going to be changing because there are some cool games coming out next week. The Artful Escape is something I've really been looking forward to. Tales of Arise I think comes out next week, which is a game that I'm kind of interested in. The new Life is Strange game also comes out next week, which I really enjoy Life is Strange. So there are some games that are kind of coming out, which this past week there really wasn't many. So I wanted to get BoJack done because, well, final season Lucifer is coming up soon, and I'm a big Lucifer fan, and Into the Night season 2 soon, and Midnight Mass, and Sex Education. Lot of great shows coming up on Netflix. You season 3, so just kind of been chilling, watching Netflix, man.
Mood.
I know
sometimes it's like that, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. It really is.
I've been binge watching, Keeping Up with the Kardashians as well. So
of course,
I know it feels to watch great TV shows.
No,
right?
you don't.
I know it feels.
No, you don't. You have no idea. You have no idea what it's like. Beaner8127 says, should Microsoft give compensation for the co-op delay? Like, finish the co-op on Legendary and get a battle pass and scale down with difficulty. Great show. I don't think that... The idea is interesting, but at the end of the day, Microsoft's a business. They want people to buy the Battle Pass. Whether you pay them $10 or if you're subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate or something and they give it to you for part of your subscription. I can't imagine. Although, I believe Warzone and Fortnite, Jez, if you actually complete the Battle Pass, gives you enough money to then buy the next Battle Pass. I wonder if that's something they're going to implement in this version, or, if it's strictly just going to be, you need to buy this.
It is like, it is interesting because the whole drama over the progression not including finishing matches, and then Microsoft going back on that and changing it. It does make me wonder, like, how closely are they monitoring fan feedback and what other companies are doing with this stuff? Like, is that maybe too nuanced for them to notice? I do kind of feel like, because that at the start of Gears 5 multiplayer, they got a lot of stuff so wrong. And Gears 4 as well. They got a lot of stuff so wrong with the monetization. And then it took like almost several operations for them to course correct. So I do wonder if they're going to get onto some of that stuff. I do kind of feel like it'd be great if Microsoft looked a little bit more about what the community wants. But this is the problem with the franchise, that when it's as old as Halo, you get into a position where you can't please everyone. Some people want, like, people argue over sprint, for example. People argue over like the rudimentary iron sights that Halo has, stuff like that. Like, it's almost like when it comes to games like Halo, you can't please everyone. So I don't know. Well, I just hope it's fun at this point.
Yeah,
and I don't care about the little stuff. I just want it to be fun.
343 did have a very interesting blog post where they talked about the feedback, and I never actually seen it positioned like that, where they take some of the things about what people really liked and what some of the feedback is for a lot of the things from the flight, and they talked about what they're going to do and how they're going to change things. And it's a cool look into like game development, like, oh, this is what people really liked, and this is maybe a little bit more split, or this is what people want. One of the things I did notice is they're changing radar back to how it used to be, which has definitely angered some people. I know a lot of like hardcore Halo purists were really upset with the radar change. In
the radar change, give us some details.
Honestly, like, I'm not even really sure.
Wasn't it always that you showed up after shooting?
Well, in Halo, you always showed up no matter what. The only time you didn't show up was if you're crouching. If I remember correctly. So if you're crouch walking, you don't show up on radar, but if you're walking around or whatever, you would show up. But they changed it for this beta, and I forget in what way, but
it's sprint and shooting only now, right?
Yeah, I'm not honestly, I don't remember, but I just
someone in chat can clue us in.
Yeah, somebody in chat can probably tell us, but what they said in the blog was that they're changing it back to the old style of the Halo radar. And that's sort of the problem you have with, these franchises that have been around for a long time and have their fan bases entrenched in. It's the same problem that Gears has. It's like Halo needs to evolve, but your super hardcore fans don't want it to evolve or don't like the changes. Fun speculation. Shout out to you, Mav. He says, if in Halo you had to crouch or be still not to show up, this time it's only when sprinting or shooting. So they reverted it back, mainly because of the feedback of the hardcore fans. So they're definitely paying attention, but it's one of those things where it's like the games need to evolve with the time. And, they didn't like, hardcore didn't like sprint, and the hardcore didn't like aiming down sights, even though aiming down sights really doesn't give you that big of an advantage. Because Halo's supposed to be Halo. Same thing with Gears. Like, there are people that want the franchises to evolve, but then the hardcore fan base, who is very vocal on social media, even though they're a tiny minority, they don't want any changes whatsoever. So, like, 343 and the Coalition are, like, stuck, where it's like, we need to, change the game a little bit to target a wider audience, but we can't change it too much because our fans will give us crap on the internet and stuff. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Shout out to Jay Primo for, I guess, renewing his channel membership. Appreciate it, man. Gaz says, Rand, stop your show in 25 minutes. Mine starts then. Okay, thanks. Love you. I'm sorry, Gaz. This is one of the reasons why I don't like doing the show on Saturdays, because it does run against Gaz's incredible Game On Daily Go Live show that he always does, like 3 p.m. on Saturday.
But we do. But on the plus side, we do spare people from Xbox Era if we do on Saturday, right?
Well, so Xbox, so Special Nick is super pissed at me because we had to do it on Saturday, because they're doing their live show today, but they moved it so it wouldn't be on during the same time.
Okay.
But he gets really mad because he thinks that we take all the viewers, and I'm like, well, if nobody watches you because they're watching us, that just means you have nothing to say, Nick. You know. So.
Poor Nick.
Poor Nick. Let's see what else we got here. Jacqueline Branch says, "Hey gents, any insight on when Phil is doing an interview with the CEO of 2K? Funny timing given the recent rumors. Love the pod." So yeah, a lot of people sent me this article about how Phil Spencer and I think his name is Zesnik or something, the CEO of Take-Two.
Strong German name.
Yeah, and they're doing some sort of talk at the end of the month. And I don't know, recent rumors, Jez, the recent rumors regarding Take-Two and Xbox. I mean, I see people talking about on social media, but surely that isn't something that is being talked about.
When you say these things, I start thinking, do I pour gasoline on this rumor?
Why, did you do something? What did you do?
No, I heard something about Take-Two, my dude, a long time ago. I heard months and months ago, from a couple of very trusted industry sources that the next big studio, big publisher to be acquired could be Take-Two. But that was a really long time ago. But at the same time, a publisher like Take-Two would take a long time to eventually get acquired, right? So I don't know. I mean, I have no hard evidence about this, but this industry rumor about Take-Two is old, and it was sort of like, it was out there. A lot of people were talking about this, about Take-Two maybe seeking a buyer and stuff like that. Again, I have no idea if that's true for sure. I haven't seen any documents. You guys know how much I like my documents. And, it's sort of like, because Take-Two is a publicly traded company, that adds a whole load of complexity to the proposition. So, it's just funny that these rumors pop up, because every time they do, I think back to that rumor about Take-Two looking for a buyer and think like, could it be? Could it be? But then again, it's like, man, would Take-Two be an even bigger purchase than Bethesda? That's huge, because you get Grand Theft Auto. And Grand Theft Auto is, the scale of Grand Theft Auto as a franchise is, it's monolithic. It's so damn big. And then, like, you look at all their other franchises too, like they've got a lot of sports licenses, don't they? Don't they have like the WWE license and the NBA license and all that stuff?
Yeah, they do. They do make the WWE games, but they've been kind of battling around that, and they do release the 2K games, which are, big sellers every single year. I think those are the only sports ones they release. I just, I looked up on, Take-Two's net worth or whatever, and they're like worth $18 billion. So you're talking, so you're probably talking minimum $25 billion. More to completely buy them out.
And that's the thing, though, like, you have to, like, unlike Bethesda, where Bethesda, like, there was a lot of goodwill between Bethesda and Microsoft on a personal level. Mm-hmm. They were also an independent company, so like it was sort of like potentially easier to work out a deal. Whereas like with Take-Two, you have to provide a return for shareholders as well. Mm-hmm. So you have to make all those shareholders like happy potentially, and be like, yeah, we'll buy them at like double what the share price is. Just throw a random number out there, So like that's gonna be a lot of money, man. So like, I don't know if it seems like wild to speculate. Could Microsoft buy Take-Two? I mean, they certainly have the money to do it, but when you factor in the complexity and all that other stuff, it seems like maybe too pie in the sky. But maybe there is some kind of deal coming around the corner. Maybe they're going to throw their weight behind Game Pass, or something like that, you know? But if that was the case, why did the Take-Two guy make comments recently about how Game Pass was not a good business model for them or something?
Yeah.
So it's really intriguing, you know?
Maybe he's trying to drive up that price.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to drive up the price, or maybe he's trying to like persuade investors not to do it or something. I don't know. Like maybe there's all sorts of shit going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. So I have no idea what's going on there. But I did hear that a long time ago that Take-Two was a big rumor about them looking for a buyer. So, and again, that was a long time ago. Not seen any documents, and definitely no first-hand comments. It was just like an industry rumor, you know. And I think like if you go back and look at their share price around February was going up and up and up for some reason. And I think that was on the back of these rumors, you know, these industry rumors. So, and then it came back down after like nothing happened. But who knows, man? Who bloody knows? Look at their share price on Monday. See what happens, you know.
What? Because you're talking about it, and because
not me.
Because
I just mean like,
well, you already know. We already know. We've been through this how many times? You say something, some random person who's listening to the podcast is gonna write an article for some website, and then you know IGNs and you know the GameSpots of the world are gonna want to you know get in on the click, so they're gonna write something, and then somebody's
This isn't my rumor. Like this was just an industry rumor that like was out there, you know.
Uh-huh.
So if those kind of rumors are bubbling up again, it could affect the share price. Oh god, is that the cat? Yeah, okay. You might hear random meows every now and then as the cat's coming in.
Yeah. So whatever you do, don't write any articles based on this because this isn't a Jez rumor. This is just
it's nothing.
It's old rumor. And I mean, yeah, they are doing a talk at the end of the month, but that could. I don't think that signifies that anything, but you know, it was about a year ago. A year ago, Sony decides to do their PlayStation showcase, and then a year ago, Xbox bought Bethesda. So is September the month when acquisition season starts for Xbox? I don't know, maybe. J Primo says whatever. And we got one here from Jennifer Lundberg who says, love me some Xbox 2. We all owe Jez a great deal of gratitude for defeating the demons in the ethereal plane. Keep doing the Lord's work. Did you get a lot of messages about your cult story that you told at the end of the show last week?
Yeah, I did get some messages. It's funny.
That's pretty cool.
I think I said this on Twitter. When I was about 18. Have you heard of an app called RPG Maker 2000?
I've heard of a game called RPG Maker, I think, but not of an app called that. No.
Well, I don't know if it counts as a game or an app, but there was a program called RPG Maker where you could import sprites and make a JRPG basically. And I was making a JRPG based on the whole astral plane cult thing story. And I got about 3 hours of gameplay into it before I got bored, but that was a fun little program. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fun and games, man.
Space Dovican says, man, Dragon Age Origins was so good, it was painful to watch the sequel fail. I really like Dragon Age Origins, but I didn't play Dragon Age 2.
You know, Dragon Age 2 is weird. Like, when I first played Dragon Age 2, I was disgusted. I was like, what is this? What is this trash? It's terrible. But then, after all the DLC and all the things they patched into the game, it feels like so much more of a complete game with the DLC that I ended up loving Dragon Age 2 as well. Like, it's not as good as Dragon Age Origins, but Dragon Age 2 is a very solid game with all the DLC. But yeah, that's a complete other
Yeah, you're a big Dragon Age fan. So I know.
I love Dragon Age.
I know. Yeah. So for you to say Dragon Age 2 is poop means it really kind of is, right?
Well, I didn't say that.
Well,
I
mean, you sort of did.
Well, I didn't say. I said it wasn't as good, but I actually ended up loving it.
Oh well.
After all the DLC.
I mean, you are a fanboy after all for Dragon Age, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. But it was weird at launch. But
Um,
yeah.
what about Dragon Age Inquisition? How would you rate that one?
I played Dragon Age Inquisition to death, but I don't know. There was so much nothing in it. That's such a weird thing to say. There was just so much nothing in it. But like filler, like going around grinding pointless quests, find 5 sheep or collect 8 carrots, and there was loads of like really weird lame quests like that. Like it almost felt like it wanted to be an MMO only without the multiplayer. But I did enjoy Dragon Age Inquisition overall. I've often said to myself, I'm gonna go back and do the DLC, but man, it hasn't aged particularly well, and I think it's stuck at 720p resolution on backwards compatibility, which is vomit-inducingly bad. I'm hoping that maybe they'll release a resolution boost patch if that feature ever exists, and but I don't know. It just looks too rough at 720p. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll play it, but nah.
Yeah,
I've got
early
like
Xbox
low
One titles.
expectations.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I got low expectations for Dragon Age 4 though, because of Dragon Age Inquisition and because EA just doesn't seem to have been able to deliver a kind of big single player game for a long time. I mean, Jedi Fallen Order was good, but it wasn't sort of like on the sort of narrative scale as Dragon Age or Mass Effect. So I don't know. I don't have particularly high hopes. But there was some Mass Effect news this week, Rand. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah. It's actually a topic that they might be using the Unreal Engine, Engine 5,
I mean,
which
we could just touch upon it quickly.
yeah. Well, I think one of the issues people had with Mass Effect Andromeda was that EA forced them to use Frostbite engine, which wasn't really a good fit for Mass Effect, and that could be one of the reasons why the game ultimately ended up failing. I did see Jeff Grubb talk about this. I think you wrote an article because it was basically posting job listings, but it sounds like they might be moving away from Frostbite to go to Unreal Engine 5, but it's going to be a long time before we see this new Mass Effect game. So
yeah, a
long time, which is disappointing, I guess. But it's one of those things where they unveiled it last year at the Game Awards, right? So in 2020, and it sounds like we won't see it again until 2023, 2024, and who knows when it'll come out. And it's like, with EA, with how BioWare's been doing lately, with EA shutting down the Anthem, like restructuring or whatever you want to call it, like making Anthem better and just basically shutting that game down. I don't know. Do you have the utmost confidence that like EA just won't just be like, yeah, you know what, Dragon Age failed. We're pulling the plug on Mass Effect 4 or whatever. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think the fact that they're switching to Unreal is an encouraging move because it shows that EA is willing to invest in competing tools if it makes sense for the game. The fact that they were forcing Frostbite on developers who weren't particularly familiar with it and retrofitting the engine to make it work as an RPG, like, it's encouraging that they're switching to Unreal because BioWare seems to be better with Unreal. They made Unreal Engine sing for Mass Effect 2. Like the difference between Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 is huge. Like they went with Unreal for Mass Effect 1 and they didn't know how to use it that well. And then like for Mass Effect 2, it's just like night and day difference. So I think Unreal Engine is potentially better fit for the kind of game they want to make. And maybe it sort of indicates that they might go with a more classic, not full-blown open world format. Maybe they'll go for something a little bit more wide linear with backtracking and stuff like Jedi Fallen Order. I hope so. Because I don't dude, this is one thing. This is actually an editorial topic I've got coming down the pipeline in the next couple of weeks. I am fucking sick of open world games, man. Not every game needs to be open world.
Preach, Jez.
I seriously, Mass Effect doesn't need to be open world. Dragon Age doesn't need to be open world. Halo, bloody hell, does not need to be open world. you know. And I know Halo's like that hub world sort of system or whatever, but like Dragon Age Origins had a perfect world size, and so did Mass Effect 2, and so did Mass Effect 3. I don't think every game needs to be open world, and you know,
I
who
100%
knows?
agree with you. But that does
Yeah.
seem the way most games be going, because they want to big the open world. Because when you're spending that amount of money on a AAA production, you need people to keep on playing it. So you give them this huge world with tons of things to do. So they spend 100 hours in it instead of 8 hours, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why everything basically has become an open world. But I agree with you. Mass Effect doesn't need to be an open world. Mass Effect is about going to different planets. It's not about like having a huge singular planet to explore, you know? So,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, he says, Microsoft says Starfield is exclusive, not coming to PlayStation 5. Sony fans say, so you're telling me there's a chance. Xbox 2 podcast is the best podcast. Well, thank you. Michael Kulik says, I think the strategy Microsoft has always had was to have Master Chief Collection be that avenue for the hardcore fans who didn't want radical changes, whereas the new games would bring new things to the franchise. You know, I thought the same too, because if you want like the old Halo Radar style, it's like, well, Master Chief Collection exists on console and PC. You can go play Halo 2, you can go play Halo 3, you can play those Halo games if you want the old classic Halo. Why not let the new Halo games be exactly that, new? Not saying you need to completely change everything about Halo, but let them experiment with some new ideas. But then again, the Halo fans, the hardcore, come out, they don't like something, they make their voices heard, they make changes, and it's just like, man, you already have, like, I don't understand, like, why couldn't you roll with the Radar from the beta? And if you're really that upset, then like you already have those older Halo games that you can go back and experience. I don't know, but
I think like it is a gamble betraying fans. It is a gamble,
yes.
but sometimes it can really pay off. And I think like one example that it really paid off for was Resident Evil. Like when they announced Resident Evil 7 would be first person, I was like, oh God, I don't know about that. That is weird. But now I think like I prefer it. Actually prefer it. Although, like, even still, it was really fun to revisit Resident Evil 2 Remastered with the classic format, or at least some degree of the classic format. But I think, like, first person for Resident Evil 7 and 8 really, really worked. And when I remember Rod Ferguson made headlines when he said about Halo Gears of War 5. He was saying, like, sometimes you have to betray the fans to develop the franchise. And it's like, yeah, you do. But like then Gears, I would argue Gears 5 didn't go far enough to betray the fans, quote unquote. Yeah, they added that like really mild ability system with Jack, and they added like really mild open world-ish segments that had like a couple of mini side quests with some narrative objects in them. But I don't think it went anywhere near far enough. I think like I'm not saying it needs to be like full-blown open world like Assassin's Creed did, but I think like they could have gone further on progression and items and objects and stuff like that. But I don't know. This is a completely separate discussion, but oh well.
Right. Michael also says if we're talking publishers, Valve would be a more possible acquisition in his opinion. Valve does bring Steam with you, and that's a big market. Microsoft wants PC to be a pillar of their gaming strategy and Game Pass. You know, if that's something that could happen, maybe it will, maybe it won't. Brett says 2 weeks from Monday is the 1 month anniversary for Bethesda. I remember that day very well because Jez called me 6 hours at like midnight on Monday and was like, they're buying Bethesda. I was just told by somebody, and I'm like, what? And I couldn't fall asleep. Like I was just too pumped, and then it happened that day, and it was just like, whoa, what a moment. And
honestly, like thinking about it, that was the highlight of my career. I think getting that call.
Yeah,
it was so hype. I could not believe my ears.
I mean, I couldn't. I thought you were trolling me because you do like to troll me about certain things. He'll be like, Rand.
I was literally thinking Rand's gonna think I'm trolling him. I was literally thinking that.
I did think that, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's no way this is true. Bethesda. But you were right, and I'm hopefully like I always cross my like man. Maybe Jez will call me because I know sometimes it'll be like, because I'm a night owl, I'm up late. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'll just get like a DM from Jez and at what because when Jez says Discord now, that means he doesn't want any any paper trail, right? So that means hop on a voice call. So, it gets me all excited because I was like, oh, does he hear it? Was it something about a game? Is it something about an acquisition? And he'll just be like, and I'll be like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm just bored. I'm like, you son of a bitch. Like, you just want me. So, yeah, I'm waiting for one of those things where you like, you'd be like, get on Discord. And then I'd be like, what's up? And you're like, Microsoft just bought Take-Two. And I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. That's not possible. But anyways.
No.
Furious Joy says, mayo shrimp, ooh, 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 ooh. Great show, guys. RDX NFS says, Xbox can never get away with what Sony is. Brett says, Jez, have you noticed that EA is starting to turn around? They seem to be acting similar to Microsoft on how they are treating their studios. So
I think, like, I've actually gotten this comment a few times. And there was actually someone on Windows Central, Samuel Tolbert, great guy. He wanted to write an editorial. EA seems to be turning it around. But I'm old enough to remember the last 2 or 3 times they seem to be. They take a few steps forward, and then they have, like, 5 steps backward. Like, I think I talked about this on a previous show. Like, I remember when they made Dead Space, and they made Mirror's Edge, and it felt like, oh, wow, they're really trying new things. They're giving their studios creative freedom to do interesting stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then we got Battlefront 2, and they took like a huge leap backwards. And they closed Visceral and made Battlefield Hardline, and a bunch of other stupid stuff that really ruined their reputation again. So I think, like, with EA, it's like an ebb and a flow. Sometimes they do some good stuff here and there, and then other times they just screw it all up. So
yeah. Dean Brown says, I love the world-sized Dragon Age Origins. Traveling to specific linear regions, open worlds can just end up feeling smaller in a weird way. Lauren says, I disagree. Mass Effect 1 is my favorite Mass Effect because of how less linear it is compared to the other ones. 2 adapted missions, which was the same. And people fight about that all the time, which one's better, and for whatever reasons. Some people like Mass Effect 1, some people say 2 or 3 is better. I know where I stand. I've always said 2 is better, but 3 does have some pretty good moments. But 1 is just, I don't know, too janky, man. Like the vision is there, but I don't know. They needed extra time or more experience because driving around that Mako, the combat, the copy pasted areas you would go into on the surface world, like all being the same.
Dude, there's actually a law reason for that,
Oh, of course there is.
They're prefabricated buildings.
Oh yeah,
right. They're 3D printed buildings, man.
Yeah, okay, fine. We'll buy that. And then why did it change in the second one then, huh? Explain that to me, sir.
It actually didn't that much. Like if you go to certain planets, like human colonies, for example, they're all those prefab 3D printed buildings again. Like, but there's a bigger variety of alien technology. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Michael says Jez wants Capcom. He's been dying on that hill forever. Capcom. But if you're going from an individual developer standpoint, I really don't know off the top of my head a lot of Japanese developers, so that's not a good question. FromSoft? Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, but they're already owned by a parent company, so that'd be more difficult.
Bandai then.
Well, Bandai's a publisher.
Is FromSoft owned by Bandai Namco?
No, FromSoft is owned by something that begins with a K. I don't know. PlayStation or Sony just signed like a deal with them about their anime or something. But yeah, From Software would probably an individual developer would probably be the best.
I think like either Square Enix or Capcom for me. I think Square Enix would actually probably be better from a business perspective, because I think like Square Enix has a lot of overhead that Microsoft could trim out, but they have like a lot of mobile games, which is an area Microsoft really isn't right now. And they also have a big service game, Final Fantasy 14, obviously. But I think Square Enix would probably be a smarter purchase, but my heart would prefer to not lose Capcom, I think. I think Monster Hunter has a huge amount of untapped potential. I think Monster Hunter could be as big as Pokemon if it was positioned correct.
No, it very well could be. Brett says, you think Microsoft would go really ambitious with multiple acquisitions for Xbox's 20th anniversary? Not like EA and Take-Two, but like smaller publishers like Warner Brothers? Man, we're on the whole acquisition thing because people are just getting antsy at the 1-year anniversary of the Bethesda thing. I usually find like things don't like fall in directly like that, where it's like they want things ready for the 20th anniversary, and who knows if they're even going to do anything for the 20th anniversary. But we know that they're talking to people because, I mean, both Phil Spencer and Satya have indicated that they're still looking, and you have Satya, who's the CEO, so something will happen at some point. It's just a matter of timing. So, and Shellen says, Rand, I need an impression of Jez. Rand, I need you to do an impression of Jez and say you want to throw a shrimp on the Barbie with mayo. You want me to do an impression of Jez in what, his accent? I can't do that. I'm not very good at impressions. I'm sorry.
I can do a Rand accent.
No, you can't. You cannot do a Rand accent. That is a horrible accent.
I want to throw some shrimps on
Barbie. I'm not from the South, Jez. I'm sorry.
That's how all Americans sound.
No, they don't. I'm from Chicago, where we have the best
Illinois.
dialect. We have the dialect that they teach newscasters to use because it's not.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. The Midwestern Chicago accent is basically how do I explain?
Regarded as the sophisticated
because it doesn't have the Southern drawl, like hey y'all, right? So, and it doesn't have the whole Boston, New York thing, right? And it doesn't have the Western, like yo dude, like the California. It's kind of in the middle, where it's
tubular,
where people from all across the states can. I've read about this. Like, there's a reason why when you're on like major news, sites like CNN and all these ones, they pick people who have that kind of standard Midwestern accent because it's less egregious for other people to listen to in other areas of the United States. So,
you all sound the same to me.
Yeah, okay. You obviously haven't heard somebody with a thick Southern accent or a thick New York accent.
I don't know, man.
Obviously
England has the best accents, of course.
Yeah.
Although, Rand, when I was in LA, once, and someone thought I was Australian, which triggered me because they'd obviously never heard of West Midlands accent before. They were like, "Oh, you're from Australia?" And I'm like, "No, I'm English. I'm from England."
England, mate. So does anybody give you crap when you go around in Germany and buy things? They look at you weird because you got the English accent and not the German one?
Well, I usually just point and gesture and keep my mouth shut. Most people speak English here anyway, but yeah, it's weird because like you go to other countries and most people just sometimes, Rand, people can just tell I'm English from looking at me, or they think I'm American or something. They can just tell I'm not German. Like, I'll walk into a shop and before I even open my mouth, they speak to me in English. Like, they know I'm not from Germany. So I don't know how. I don't know what about me looks not German, but something about me is very obviously not German. Apparently,
apparently, Furious George says, any thoughts on the CEO of Paradox walking away? Could they be picked up by Microsoft? I didn't know he left. Did you, Jez?
She left.
Oh, she CEO left.
Of Paradox was
that's on me for thinking it was a dude.
Yeah, I think her name is it Ebba? Ebba? Pretty cool name. Yeah, Ebba. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the surname because I'll butcher it. Jungerud? Jungerud. I've pronounced that completely wrong. But her name's Ebba. Let's call her Ebba. The Paradox Interactive CEO Ebba leaves due to differing views from the chairman from the board about how to run Paradox.
Interesting.
So the Paradox board of directors, the chairman of the board is the ex-Paradox CEO. So that does seem like I can imagine there would be conflicts there. Like the ex-CEO is the chairman of the board. Obviously, he's going to have an opinion on how to be a good CEO for Paradox. But it sounds like it was a bit of a mess there. But the Paradox's strategy of swamping their games with DLC doesn't seem to be paying off for them so much anymore. And some of their recent DLC for some of their games have been like lower quality. Like it was always the case that the DLC for Paradox games, that expansion, they were like expansions, they were like massive and they completely changed everything about the game. And it's almost like you had to buy them to keep up with the curve almost. Like the Stellaris expansions are essential to the game, I think, because they fix a lot of balance issues too. But because you got so much content, it felt worth it, I had like all the Stellaris expansions, which now amounts to over like $150 worth of expansions for that game. Like if you count all the cosmetic stuff too. But I think like some of the Crusader King DLCs weren't received that well, and Imperator Rome didn't do that good and stuff like that. So I think there is some upheaval there with Paradox right now, but I don't know. I'm just happy, Rand, that Surviving Mars is under development again. Because they abandoned Surviving Mars, and then they were like, "Oh, actually, maybe we should do more Surviving Mars," because Elon Musk keeps talking about it.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I'm glad that makes you happy, Jez, because
I love Surviving Mars.
I couldn't care less about Surviving Mars or Paradox. So does not excite me in any way whatsoever. Brett
Pillars
says
of Eternity is a Paradox game,
Brett says, Jez, the RSI on Bandai Namco is at 88 for September. 75 plus is sus, whatever that means.
RSI?
Yeah, he says RSI. And he says, Jez, they probably know because you look like you laugh a lot. Meaning the whole, they know you're from the UK.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like I have to bring this up because of who I am and what I'm named after. Randall Thor, obviously.
Randall Thor.
Name myself after the main character of the Wheel of Time. And finally, the Amazon TV show that's in development. They've put out their first teaser trailers. So people tagged me on Twitter all day long when it was revealed because that book series means so much to me. And I watched it. I got excited. I can't describe the amount of emotions that I felt when I was watching that trailer and seeing things that I only imagined in my head when I started reading the series back in like high school. Like, oh my God, am I actually going to see the Wheel of Time, on the small screen, but big screen, right? And, it's like, I'm super pumped. I want people to watch it. But at the same time, I'm keeping my expectations in check because you never know how these fantasy TV shows pan out. Is it going to be like Game of Thrones, where it becomes the next big thing and it's really well done? Or is it going to become like those awful MTV or ABC fantasy series where it's just like not worth watching, and when people hear Wheel of Time after that, non-book readers, they're like, oh, that was that horrible TV show, right? And it's like, oh, but if you just, the Wheel of Time is so awesome that if they did it right, it would be absolutely huge. And I remember telling my buddy Magic, who works at Xbox, when HBO picked up Game of Thrones, which was A Song of Ice and Fire, as is the series, I said if they did that book series right, it would become the biggest thing on television. And they did it right, and I was proven right. And Game of Thrones did become the biggest thing on television until, well, they ran out of source material because George R.R. Martin can't finish the series. And they basically had to make up the ending for themselves, and, it ended up being horrible. But I knew, based on the source material, that Game of Thrones was going to be fantastic, if the right people were behind it. And the same thing goes for Wheel of Time. I got, my fingers are crossed. I want it to be so good. I sat there and I just had a smile. I like chills through my body, like legitimate chills. And I wanted to know if anything was that for anybody in chat. Not saying the Wheel of Time, but like anything for you that you've seen that you've always wanted to see and you finally got to see it for the first time or experience it, where it literally gave you like the biggest amount of joy, right? Where chills just ran through your body, like something that was just incredible like that. And that was like for me for watching that trailer. I mean, there's a reason I named myself Rand Althor after the main character. You know, I do have some concerns. Rand wasn't really in the trailer very much, and he's the main character. So that was kind of a little bit,
but
you know.
This could be a double-edged sword, man, because what if the TV show does blow up and Wheel of Time does become a household name? Maybe they make video games about Wheel of Time and stuff, and it becomes like this huge thing. Won't that affect your channel? People will think you're a Wheel of Time channel. Because I'd never heard of Wheel of Time like ever before you explained what it was. So I would argue that it's potentially not that mainstream, but I could be wrong.
I mean, it's not. I mean, it does have a huge audience. The people love the books, but for it to be like successful, I would imagine they needed to cross over to the mainstream, right? And this brings me up to like regrets. You know, we all regret shit in our life that we've done. You know, like my gaming regret is never playing a Super Nintendo game, because I didn't own a Super Nintendo. And that's kind of one of the gaming shames and regrets that I do bear with me, is that I didn't play any of the Super Nintendo games. And that's probably one of the reasons why I look at Nintendo the way I look at them, where I'm just like, who cares? Because I don't have that established nostalgia. Back in like grammar school and high school, when I started working, I started to build a DVD collection. I had like 400 DVDs. And this was before Blu-ray. But I also had a huge collection of fantasy novels. Like, if the fantasy novel came out in like the late 1990s or the early 2000s, or if it was a big series, I read it. And there was a time where like I was really hurting for money. I mean, I think I mentioned on the show or in you, like there was a time where like I literally was homeless for a bit. And
I didn't know that.
No, I was literally, I got kicked out of the house, and I was homeless, and I had to sleep in my buddy's van in the dead of winter in Chicago, which, as anybody knows here in Chicago, is not it's not fun. It's not fun to be in a van parked on the side of the road when it's negative 20 degrees outside.
Pretty cold, man.
Yeah. So I sold all my DVDs, and I don't regret it to this day. Like, I had tons of DVDs. I don't regret it at all. Like, I don't care, because I'm not like that. But you know what I do regret, Jez? To this day, I regret selling all my books. Even though I got a lot of money for them, I honestly have a pang of regret every time I think about the books that I sold, because I do always have like, I want to reread some stuff, which brings me to the Wheel of Time. And I recently, rebought the first 3 books because I want to finish the series again. You know what I mean? So
why don't you buy them back?
I did.
You're a YouTube millionaire now.
Well, no. So I bought the first 3, so I'm gonna read the series again. But I literally had 300 books, man. I was so into reading everything. I would go Friday nights. I would go to Borders, and I would just like walk the fantasy sci-fi section and browse the books and pick out the next series, right? Like, I would do that, and I would love it. And I would go home and I just like sit in the chair and read all these, like, the Farseer trilogy from Robin Hobb, or like I said, Wheel of Time, Song of Ice and Fire, Moslin, Book of the Fallen, right? Like, so many of these sci-fi series that I would read, and I came on hard times and I had to sell them all. And same thing with the DVDs. And I don't regret selling the DVDs, but I do regret selling all those books. I don't know what it is. it pangs me even to this day. Like, I had so many, man, and some of them were so good I only read once, but yeah. I know that's kind of a little bit heavy for a gaming podcast, but it
Man,
is.
yeah, I didn't know that. That's sucked to hear, man. But look where you are now. You've trial by fire. Think of the Rand from the book. He's a hero, right? He's not
Well,
a
I mean,
villain.
he is the main character. Oh man, hopefully they do him justice. hopefully they do.
I read him, man. Like, now that I've got my nice shiny Galaxy Fold, which is an amazing phone, by the way. I bought the Galaxy Fold at much pain for my bank account, but I like new tech, Rand. And I thought, you know what? It's time I bought a folding phone for some reason. And I bought it, and I love it. But really cool on it, it's like you get like a huge amount of display for like books and stuff. So maybe I'll read the book, man. I haven't read a book for about 20 years.
I mean, it's 14 books in the series, so get the reading them. You know what I mean? So,
it has pictures, right?
No, it does
No
not.
pictures?
No pictures.
Oh
I'm
my
sorry.
god.
No
do
pictures.
people read books without pictures?
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
So enough of that. I mean, let's talk about gaming and some of these topics.
Indeed.
We got a question here from Jacqueline in Super Chat. Hello again, big sexies. Any guesses as to the surprises in the upcoming PlayStation show? Interesting. Yeah, that is a topic. We'll talk about the PlayStation stuff in a minute here, because PlayStation had some big news they dropped on Friday. And it does seem like they are going to be putting on a big show, 40 minutes long. So we'll talk about what we expect to see at the show in a bit. Furious Joy says, next Rand charity stream has got to be him playing Surviving Mars. I mean, I would rather play Surviving Mars than Pokemon, so there is that. Gone Mad says, hit that like button indeed. Make sure you guys, if you're enjoying the show, hit the like button and share this out. I really appreciate it. Michael says, been keeping my eye on the Wheel of Time. Interesting how Amazon is handling that and the Lord of the Rings show. Hope neither one is a dud. Me too, man. I hope they're both great. I hope Wheel of Time... I hope people like come up to the channel and be like, oh man, you're named after Rand. He's so cool. You must be so cool. Because I'm like, yeah, I am cool. Even though I'm not. I just can't wait to see that on screen, man. Yeah, it's going to be so good. But what if it sucks, though? Like, that's the thing I'm worried about, is that it sucks. Dean says, books feel like they will be the last bastion of physical entertainment. Something about paper in the hand that doesn't land the same on screen. It's funny because my sisters and my mom all use Kindle, but there's something for me about having that book in your hands and the smell of the paperback book, the paper. I don't know, I've tried reading stuff on a Kindle, and it just doesn't connect with me in the same way. I guess maybe I'm like old man yelling at the clouds. This is how people must feel when they talk about digital, and they're like, physical forever. But there's just something about having a book in your hands, reading it, versus like a computer screen.
Is it like almost sort of meditative? I think I associate screens with work a lot of the time. So like even when I try and read it, I've tried to read like a book recently on just to test it out. I read some pages of a book on Galaxy Fold. My friend's actually written a book, and he's releasing it on Amazon soon. So I was reading his book that he sent me an advanced copy of, and the notifications kept popping up, and I kept getting distracted and stuff like that. You can't. I suppose there's no notifications on a Kindle, but when you've got a book in your hand and only a book, and there's no phone, there's no computer, you are completely in that book, and there's like no outside anything that can sort of distract you, I guess. But for me, Rand, it's a space thing. I just don't have any room for books or games or anything anymore.
I have this big shelf in my room that spanned like all like around the entire like top of the room, that I would just like put all my books on, and it was just like I'd have one series, another series, another series, another series, and it was so cool. But then it's like I had to sell them all, and I still regret it to this day. Kay Asante says, salute to the dynamic duo. Rand, love that you shared your journey, both good and bad times. How far you've come, upwards and onwards. Thank you. So let's talk about first, Alan Wake. You just
Alan Wake.
posted an article because it leaked. At least Wario posted a listing for it on Rakuten for the PS5, PS4, and Xbox versions. As far as I know, it's 100% accurate. And it looks like it'll be coming on October 5th. And I think it's going to be revealed very, very, very soon. And I, for one, could not be more excited that Alan Wake is returning, because you know what this means. If they're remastering this Xbox 360 game, probably for a reason, and there are rumors that Remedy is working on Alan Wake 2 with Epic, and that's their next big game. So, of course, if you are doing an Alan Wake 2, and it's been... God, Alan Wake 1, I think, came out in 2010, so it's been 11 years, probably 12 years before an Alan Wake 2 comes out, and it was only on the 360 and PC. So yeah, you wouldn't want to introduce the series to PlayStation users. Stevie says Sony event reveal. I don't think it'll be at the Sony event. Personally, I don't think it'll be there. But I'm excited, man, like, for Alan Wake to come back. I remember a conversation I had with Phil Spencer, one of the first times I met him, and I was playing Halo 5 with him, and I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because I don't care, because it seems like Alan Wake is coming back, and I couldn't be more excited. I was talking to Phil, and we talked about Sunset Overdrive and a whole bunch of games, and I basically literally told Phil how I felt abandoned by the Xbox leadership team in the lead up to the launch of the Xbox One. Because I was so pissed off with everything they were trying to do, the whole DRM strategy, the 24 online thing, it like TV, like it really pissed me off. Like I honestly felt that Xbox has turned its back on its core gamers and was chasing like the Nintendo audience, right? Shout out to Xbox Gaming for becoming the newest member. Appreciate it, man. Enjoy the emotes, right? So, one of the first times I'm with Phil Spencer, he's the current head of the Xbox. I'm going to let my voice be heard. And I basically told him how I felt betrayed, as someone who had been with the brand for a long time, and it felt like they didn't care about what the fans wanted and all this stuff. And he, took it in stride because I'm sure he's heard it from other people. And then he was like, if there was a game that I could do, essentially like, what game would you want us to do again? And I was like, I want Alan Wake to come back. I want you to make Alan Wake 2. And I'm not going to say what he said, but it basically was a no, sort of. And I never thought we'd see it because it's a story that ends, and it's like there's more to this. Just like Quantum Break, there's more to the story. So as someone who's a huge fan of the franchise, as someone who's a huge fan of Remedy, who loves their games, I'm excited for Alan Wake Remastered because I'm excited for what it basically, portends, what it's going to signify, is that we're going to have a continuation of the franchise. I mean, they put Alan Wake in the DLC for Control. There's plans. We're going to have Alan Wake 2 in a couple years, maybe next year, maybe the year after. And I couldn't be more happy, man. I know you don't care. Because whatever, Alan Wake is pretentious, or whatever you said to me earlier.
Nah, I don't hate Alan Wake, but I just preferred Quantum Break. But, following on from what you said about Alan Wake, I feel that way about Quantum Break. I feel like abandoned in the sense that they built up this amazing universe and all this lore, and then they just wouldn't fund a sequel. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of Alan Wake, I like it, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. I get it because I feel that way about Quantum Break. I don't know why, I just preferred Quantum Break, but I know a lot of people prefer Alan Wake, but I preferred Quantum Break. But overall, I am a fan of Remedy's games. Max Payne is Max Payne 1 and 2 are two of my favorite games ever made. And I'm just happy it's coming back, like you. Bring back the remaster, introduce it to a new audience, and then go all in with a big sequel. And maybe Epic Games can really prove that they are capable of funding, third-party AAA games and stuff. But it could be if like Alan Wake 2 is like amazing and flawless. It's sort of that's an indictment of sort of the missed potential, because Microsoft could have probably acquired Remedy at some point.
Maybe, but I think when they were looking at like you're talking about when Quantum Break was released in 2015, I want to say, or was it 2016? I think it was 2016. I think Quantum Break ran hugely over budget, and I think there was a little bit of bad blood between people working at Remedy and people in charge at Xbox at the time. Like, not necessarily Phil, because I think Phil's tried his best to repair that relationship, but you can definitely see there does seem to be a little bit of bad blood between Remedy and Xbox, and I think it stems from some of the decisions. So, yeah, I think Xbox in 2016 wasn't looking to acquire anybody. I mean, hell, we didn't even know if Xbox was going to be around. And here's Quantum Break that comes out, and I don't think sold very well, and it was an extremely expensive game. And it'd be a different story now if Phil had the power he had back then, then maybe, yeah, Remedy would be bought. But I don't know. I want Alan Wake 2, Jez. So
you're gonna get it, man.
I know we're gonna get it. We're gonna get the remaster. I think it's gonna be revealed really, 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 really soon. And I can't wait to see. It's gonna be 60 frames. Probably maybe ray tracing. What if they did like ray tracing with the flashlight? You know, because you use the flashlight a lot. That could be really cool. But yeah,
like Alan Wake had like amazing lighting effects for its time.
Yeah. Michael says, was Phil at least nice about his response to you? It's a damn shame that never seemingly made any moves to acquire Remedy. I mean, Phil's always nice. It was just kind of his response to what I said about Alan Wake. And
it's funny, Rand, because you were saying that you felt abandoned by the Xbox One launch plan. I was completely on board with it.
Of course you were. Of course
I was like, this is great. I can share my games with 10 people. I can like buy a game. I can like buy a game on disc and then still have the license. I'm connected to the internet all the time, so who cares about the DRM check? You know, I was on board with it, man.
Well, it wasn't just. I mean, it wasn't. It was everything they were doing at the time. The focus on Connect. You know, because even a couple years prior, like everything was Connect.
I love Connect.
Yeah, screw
Connect
you.
was great.
Why are you my co-host?
It was Connect was cool tech, man. I don't care what anyone says. The version 2 was not great, but I'm sorry, but the U.S. military now uses helmets with Connect embedded in them.
Sure,
okay,
they do, but
if it's good enough for the U.S. military, the greatest fighting force the world has ever known, Connect is good enough for me.
You know what though? You know what Connect's not good at? Playing video games with.
I disagree. Blue Estate was a damn good game.
Trust me, I played more Connect games than you. I probably played more Connect games than anybody in the chat, and I'm a big fat guy. I played Connect games because I needed them achievements.
Fruit Ninja Connect was awesome. It was bloody great. And so was Blue Estate. And yeah, I admit I didn't play the most Connect games in the world, but I did use the voice commands a lot. I agree, it should have been sold separately. Jakester just said the same in chat. I do think Connect should have been sold separately, but that's the only mistake they made. The rest of the plan was great, except for the messaging, maybe. I wanted my TV shows. Gears of War TV show would have been sweet. And you're just here gushing about Wheel of Time being adapted into a TV show. Why not? Why can't Microsoft fund more of their games being adapted into TV shows?
I don't know.
It was a great strategy, man.
It seems like
it was just positioned poorly and maybe underfunded.
Remember when Microsoft announced the Halo TV show in 2013 and it's 2021 and it's still not out yet?
Hey, I'm not saying they would have executed it well.
Oh, you damn well know they wouldn't have.
I just saying. The plan was sound.
No, the plan was awful. The Kinect is the reason the Xbox One and their strategy was the way it was. They didn't feel confident in their core fan base. They wanted to go after another one. They felt that's where gaming was headed. And we ended up a situation with this overpriced peripheral but that nobody wanted because gaming on it was horrible. It ended up with an Xbox One that was completely over-engineered and underpowered, and it made it more expensive. So you end up in a
underpowered.
situation where you're getting your ass stomped by PlayStation because all PlayStation had to do was, yeah, we're cheaper, and guess what? We're not changing anything. And everybody's like, oh, damn, they're doing this. They're just being the same. Yeah.
Microsoft dared to dream. They dared to dream big. And I think they were on the right path. It was just executed poorly. Because if you look, Sony's doing a lot of the same stuff now. Sony has a peripheral called PlayStation VR, which, you know, is niche and not many people want it, but they're still exploring new gameplay paradigms. They're going all in on TV. They bought Crunchyroll and Funimation, and, you know, they're adapting their franchises into TV shows like Uncharted. So PlayStation is executing on the Xbox One vision in 2021. Now, I don't think it's a bad vision. I think like a Gears of War TV show would be great. Stick it on Netflix, whatever. I think if they had continued with Kinect, we would have a really small, very powerful Kinect 3 now. That would be great for kids, and it would have great Cortana integration. It'd integrate with my Windows phone, and Rand, it would be a dream. It'd be like I was living in the future.
If they
talking
kept
to my TV,
I'm sorry,
I could control my smart lights. I could control my TV. I could boil my kettle from my Xbox. I could order pizza from my Xbox. And people like you, Rand, you ruined that. You ruined it for me. Ruined it, Rand.
I'm sorry, I ruined your dream, Jez. But
Boogie ruined it for me.
But if they never dropped Kinect, Xbox wouldn't exist. Phil Spencer wouldn't be the head of Xbox. They would never have bought Bethesda. They probably would have closed more studios, and then they would have sold off what the rest of it was to Google. So thank God.
But I could have ordered a pizza with my
Well,
Xbox.
you could have been ordering a pizza with Google Stadia. That would be, you wouldn't be working for Windows Central Gaming. You'd be working for Google Central Gaming.
Are you saying Kinect would have buried all of Microsoft?
Kinect, no, not all of Microsoft, but it was going to bury the entire Xbox division 100%. Totally, because
swear down. If there was a Kinect 3, now, it'd be smaller. It'd be perfectly way more powerful, and it'd be great for kids and family games, and it could do all the voice commands and all that stuff that right now I have to use my Alexa speaker to get. Man, we could have had both, Rand. We could have had both. We could have had the studios, and we could have had Kinect.
Nope.
No.
Can you imagine Todd Howard making a Skyrim Kinect version? I can't.
Dude. Skyrim with Kinect controls existed. Do you not remember this? You could shout "Fus Rodar" at your TV, and it would trigger it.
Stupid! It is so dumb.
Stupid.
That is the dumbest shit.
Awesome.
You can shout at your television and whatever. You know what?
Gaming.
You know what? You can actually.
Gaming,
Pressing a button is much quicker than shouting "Fus Rado" into the freaking. I hate. Look, I hate that the early Xbox One. I hate the Kinect. I hate everything that went into it, and the vision, the idea of that, like, our core gamers aren't enough, and we're going to go after these grandpas and grandmas and little kids who want to flare their arms around, right? Like, no, screw that. Like, fuck Kinect. That's the last thing I'm going to say about it.
Man, I often wonder, Rand, like, because, you know, Kinect signed you in when it saw your face, right? Like the Windows Hello thing. I often wonder if there are pictures of me in my underwear somewhere on a Microsoft server from like all Kinect being on in my room 24/7. I often wonder that.
You know what? I don't want to talk about Kinect anymore because it pisses me off.
Oh wow.
So you know what, Jez?
You ruined it, Rand. You are Randall selfish.
You know what? I'm glad Kinect is in the same graveyard as the Windows Phone.
But it's not. It's in the US military, man.
Because the Windows Phone sucks.
Use an iPhone, man. You have literally no room to talk about phones when you use an iPhone.
But I don't go around saying the iPhone is the best phone ever like you do with the Windows Phone. A phone that nobody bought because it was garbage and it was terrible.
It was just ahead of its time, man. Like Kinect. Kinect was ahead of its time. Windows Phone was ahead of its time. Bing was ahead of its time. Zune was ahead of its time. What else was ahead of its time? Bring back the Zune, man. The Zune was sweet too. Groove Music, man. What happened to that? A Mixer. Mixer was ahead of its time. All the features that Mixer had that Twitch has now stolen and co-opted.
Unbelievable.
Man.
All right, I'm moving on from this. Xbox Gaming says, this is for Jez. You got the membership brand, but my boy Jez gets a pint with this.
Wow. We're like, this is now the Microsoft Graveyard podcast.
Yeah, I know, right? Gotta hope nobody from Xbox or Microsoft is listening to this show. Michael says,
I hope they are.
if they're smart,
Windows Phone.
If they're smart, they should pull Sony and make an exclusivity deal for Alan Wake 2, but it's not likely. I think it's published by Epic, so I don't think there'll be exclusivity. Space Dovakin says the Xbox One vision was ahead of its time. I completely disagree with you. That's what people want to say now, but I don't think it was. Anyways, Tokyo Game Show is coming up, Jez.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what, Rand? You know what?
What?
I would trade the Bethesda purchase for another whack Windows Phone. There, I said it, Rand. They should have put that money.
Yeah, but I know you're lying. So
it's true, man. It's damn true. I am actually not lying. I should bring it back. Anyway, Tokyo Game Show.
Microsoft says there's going to be exclusive news and reveals and stuff, and I know you wrote an article about this. It's another Xbox event coming up, I believe, at the end of September. I want to say like the 30th. What should Xbox gamers expect? Should we expect Lost Odyssey 2, Blue Dragon 2, Persona 5 port? What sort of big things does Microsoft have in plan for the Tokyo Game Show, Jez?
Microsoft's going to announce they've purchased Capcom. They're going to announce they've purchased Square Enix, Bandai Namco. Aaron Greenberg basically said on Twitter, don't expect anything. I think basically it's going to be a marketing showcase. They're going to show the Japanese expansion for Flight Simulator. They're going to talk about regional updates. Maybe they announce some stuff. I don't know. But the English version of the Tokyo Game Show website was changed. So in Japanese, it says there will be exclusive announcements, or something to that effect. Roughly translated, it says there will be exclusive announcements, or information that you can only hear here. But the English version of the website says something completely different. It says like, we will celebrate gaming, or something akin to that. So I think like basically this event is to reintroduce Xbox the Xbox Series platform to the Japanese market. People who are skeptical about the Xbox platform, people who are unfamiliar with the Xbox platform. I think they're going to talk about games that we already know are there, like Yakuza and Dragon Quest and stuff like that, and maybe show that Xbox isn't the most unsupported platform ever, even though it still is the least supported platform in Japan. It's not as bad as it used to be, especially with games like Yakuza, Lost Judgment, and Dragon Quest, and Octopath Traveler, and we got a bunch of cool Japanese games. Scarlet Nexus and Tales of Arise, Tales games often miss Xbox, so I think it's just going to be a marketing event. I don't think there's going to be anything major news-wise there, but who knows, man? Maybe there'll be some smaller indie games they show off. Maybe they'll, announce that, I don't know, Final Fantasy VII Remake finally gets announced for Xbox, but I doubt it. I think that's like the absolute most that could possibly be announced is that, but I highly doubt it. And even then, if it was a big announcement like that, they'd probably announce it at one of their Western shows anyway, so I don't expect much from this at all. But what it does show, Rand, is that Microsoft's still trying. They're still trying. Bless them. Bless their little cotton socks. They are still trying in Japan. And as someone who's like sort of rediscovered a love for Japanese games this year, I've been playing a lot of JRPGs, and Scarlet Nexus was great. I haven't finished it yet, but I was really enjoying it. I'm going to go back and finish it at some point. But I feel like the Japanese gaming industry is like resurging the last few years, like Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, and a lot of these games that they almost fell out of the limelight for a while. They've sort of come back in a big way and made a big splash. And we got Yakuza on Game Pass, and we got Octopath Traveler, and a bunch of other games, comes cool support, stuff like that. So it's encouraging that they're still pushing in Tokyo, the Tokyo Game Show, and but honestly, I don't expect any big announcements or reveals. But who knows? Who knows, man?
I don't expect anything from the Tokyo Game Show at all.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, it's going to be focused on towards, like you said, announcements for that region, but I think any big announcements that Microsoft would make would be at E3 or Gamescom or anything else. I don't think Tokyo Game Show registers. So, yeah, I would say I would say don't go and expecting Lost Odyssey 2 to get announced. Or I don't even think. I mean, there's been talk about Persona coming to Xbox. Is this the region to do it in, or is that more of a EXO Video Game Awards E3 type of moment where you finally announce that Persona's coming to your platform? Is it something you want to announce in Japan? I'm not really sure,
No.
but my
I think
expectations
that's like a Game Awards thing or something like that, I would say.
My expectations for the Game Awards are lower than what my expectations were for Gamescom. But you never do know. I mean, like, maybe they got something cool. Like you said, maybe some really cool Japanese indie games that'll come to ID at Xbox. They could potentially show off there. So I'm going to probably watch the greatest hits because who knows when that's going to be live. I don't expect anything from it. And I don't think anybody should set their expectations super high for the Tokyo Game Show. Dave in the Super Chat says, I miss controlling Xbox and the TV setup volume with the Kinect. An aftermarket Microsoft accessory could bring that back, not for games, but for convenience. I actually do know people that really like to do that with their Kinect. Brett says, Dreamcast, Bing, Windows Phone, Mixer, and Kinect were all ahead of their time. Shaking my head, crying emoji. And
he's right. He's damn right, Rand. He's damn right. I will die on this hill. Man, I'm going to have a Windows Phone engraved on my tombstone, man.
Yeah. I mean, I know you love I had a Windows Phone because achievements, but nobody else really cared about it. Furious Storage says, time to make your own show, Jez. Talk about all the great tech that Microsoft abandoned. I'd listen. Windows Phone for life, Zune for life. And
man, I never had a Zune because they were never released in the UK, sadly. But everyone I know who did have a Zune loved it. They loved it, Rand, and said it was the best.
Michael,
did you have a Zune?
No, I did not have a Zune. I didn't have an iPod either. So, Mike says Microsoft announces they bought Japan. So that's what he thinks.
Wow.
The other bit of news this week from Xbox was the whole Starfield exclusivity thing again. I thought this whole talk was over. I thought when Microsoft showed off the Starfield trailer at the very beginning of their E3 showcase, and it literally said in the biggest font you can imagine, Xbox exclusive, and then Sarah Bond comes on stage and she's like, Starfield, proud to say it's an Xbox exclusive. And then Phil Spencer bookends the show with a new game from Bethesda that's Redfall, and that says Xbox exclusive, and he says Xbox exclusive. I thought we were done talking about the exclusivity for the Bethesda games, but of course, Microsoft released Quake for all the platforms, Skyrim Anniversary announced for PlayStation as well as Xbox, so people start thinking, well, if they're releasing this old stuff, certainly that may mean their newer stuff is going to come to PlayStation. We're just going to have to wait. It's probably just a timed exclusive, right? Because if it wasn't, why doesn't Microsoft come out and literally... Because here's what people want, Jez. I think what people want is they want, Phil or Aaron, or they want the trailer. So if you're sitting and watching E3 and you see a trailer for Starfield, what they really want is it to say Xbox exclusive and underneath it, never coming to PS5. That's what they want for every single Bethesda game to come, because that's how you set expectations, right? That's what people want. Even though Xbox exclusive means what it means, Microsoft is being cagey. Now, I suppose I would need to read some of the Pete Hines stuff here. He says, it's not as sorry that you're never going to play anything by Bethesda again. Certainly there are going to be things that you're not going to be able to play on PlayStation. And he said that Starfield was a thing that was announced as an Xbox exclusive. I don't know if I would go so far as to say you're done ever playing stuff on PlayStation, but again, I don't know the answer to that right now. And this led to a whole thing on Twitter, on social media, where it's like, oh, Starfield's coming to PlayStation, guys. Basically, even though a lot of these people were basically saying Bethesda's garbage, that they're Bethesda and Bethesda never has made anything good, right? Basically saying like, well, now that you're not coming to PlayStation, you were never good in the first place. But just that, Microsoft maybe leaving that door open a little hint. They're like, they want to bash it down and be like, Bethesda games on PlayStation, we want them, we need them, right? Which then forced, Pete Hines to say you're grasping at straws, and Aaron to reiterate that it's exclusive, and then have Aaron further reiterate that it's not a timed exclusive. So, what'd you make of that whole mess?
Man, it's sort of like, first of all, I think it's grift. I think like the people who are pushing that narrative, they know it's not coming to PlayStation. They just wanted to stir up attention-seeking behavior. Like they're like social media accounts that revolve around trolling and misinformation, and they didn't believe that it was coming to PlayStation. Like Xbox literally could not have been any more explicit. Starfield is just never coming to PlayStation. It was never in the plan to come to PlayStation. It was always going to be an Xbox exclusive, and frankly, all the new games that they make are going to be Xbox exclusive. I think like you'll see the odd project, like classic games go across the board, because ultimately those older games almost serve as, marketing tools. If you bring the old Quake games to other platforms and then you announce your next gen Quake as exclusive to Xbox, like that's marketing. Those games have already sold through. There's literally no point keeping the next Skyrim exclusive to Xbox. There's literally no point. But in the next Elder Scrolls, I would put money down that it will be exclusive to Xbox. So it's just another one of those trolling things, I think. I don't think anyone actually believed it who was pushing that narrative. They were just attention seeking to get people riled up, to get people like us talking about it. And, it was just a big troll thing, I think. It's not coming to PlayStation.
No,
it never will come to PlayStation.
Of course it's not. And we said that before, but, Starfield not coming to PlayStation. It's exclusive. But, Aaron had to come out and say it's not timed either, because people would be like, well, it might be launching as an exclusive, but it'll come later. No, listen, they don't need PlayStation's fans' money on this.
They don't.
Sorry, you're not wanted. So you're not wanted or needed. And that may sting a little bit, because I think a lot of PlayStation fans are used to getting everything. And this is one of the first times that they're not going to be able to get everything. So it's a little weird feeling for them to basically have someone say, we don't need you for our business. And if you want to play these games, then you know where to play them. And in fact, it's going to be available in more places than ever before because of streaming on mobile and PC and Xbox. So
yeah,
you're not needed or wanted, quite frankly. And I think that does bother a lot of them. But yeah, totally 100%. Like Pete, I guess Pete is basically saying that hey, they still have some titles coming to the platform, Quake, Skyrim, and you could. I don't think they also don't want to back themselves up into a corner either. By saying never, because the industry changes all the time. I
think if they do if they do a Fallout 4 anniversary edition, which they probably will, I imagine that'll come to PlayStation because it's free money, right? And they can use that money to fund Fallout 5, which will be exclusive. So, and they wanted to push Game Pass subs. You don't push Game Pass subs with old games. You push it with new games. And I think if they bought Starfield to PlayStation, then you're working against that strategy to push Game Pass. You're working against it. So I can't see the next Elder Scrolls or any of the new big AAA games. They won't push Game Pass if they're on PlayStation. It really is that simple. It's not even about wanting to screw over PlayStation fans. I firmly believe if PlayStation had Game Pass, PlayStation would have Starfield through Game Pass.
100%.
But it'll never have Game Pass because Sony doesn't want it, because Game Pass competes with their services. So it's all about Game Pass at the end of the day. It's not even about Xbox. It's all about Game Pass. And that's just the way it's going to be going forward.
You see, never say never, though, Jez. Because people said crossplay is a thing that would never happen. and now it's almost becoming standard on all new big releases. And people said Sony would never put their games on PC, and they're pretty much doing it for every title. So while today PlayStation may not want Game Pass because it competes with them, who knows what the industry is going to look like in 5 and 10 years? That's why I think they're not backing themselves in a corner and saying never, because
I think that's a fair point to make, because maybe one day they decide to shift away from Game Pass, and maybe the uptake on xCloud isn't as strong as they think, and maybe they think, okay, we need to back away from this strategy and go back towards a more retail oriented strategy. Maybe then things would change, but in the current strategy and the current atmosphere, with their current projections about where Game Pass is going, it's not going to happen. So I think you're right to say that they don't want to say never because they don't know. I think the problem is the difference between how active the Xbox personalities are in discussing things versus how active the PlayStation executives are. Like, typically, PlayStation executives don't really communicate on social media, so like you're not left to make guesswork or interpret what they say. Whereas Pete Hines, Aaron Greenberg, Phil Spencer, they're all quite active on Twitter, and Twitter only gives you part of the story a lot of the time because of the tweet limit and stuff. People write shorthand and quickly, so often things get left open to interpretation by trolls and stuff like that. But I don't know how you misinterpret Xbox exclusive in huge block capitals. I don't know how you misinterpret that. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because just play where you want. Like, nobody really cares at the end of the day. If you're like a game fan, you're not really obsessed with like gatekeeping a game from another platform. Like, if they announced Starfield for PlayStation, I wouldn't care. It's not going to detract from my enjoyment of the franchise.
Yeah, so I wouldn't. It wouldn't bother me at all. Michael Kluk in chat says, really wish we had the rest of D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die. Highly underrated Japanese gem on Xbox. Yeah, I do kind of wish.
That was a Kinect game. Pretty cool Kinect game, right?
Was it Kinect? I think I played it with the controller.
You could play it with the controller, but it was supposed to be played with Kinect, Rand. Did you not try?
No. I think I got the Kinect and I put it in a drawer.
Wow.
Because who needs that? Mike says Pete Hines should probably make more statements on the shouldn't make more statements on the matter. It makes it look like Bethesda's not fully being on board, being first party, and Sony is better off restructuring PlayStation Now, make it similar to Game Pass. Not much to gain on their end if Game Pass ended up on PlayStation. He also says they should probably stop making statements. I mean, some people do say that, but he's saying what, it's like some games are going to be exclusive and some won't, and it's the truth. But I don't know. I think people just really want Starfield, and they saw the door open a crack and they wanted to kick it down, only for that to slam back in their face. Anyways, Jez, I see you've been tweeting about this recently, about Avowed being in game development hell because Chris Avallone tweeted that a bunch of people left. So yes. You talked to people, according to your sources, and that is 100% not the case, right?
I mean, there are people who've left the project and moved to other projects, and people that are shuffled around, but that's normal. It's normal in a studio. It's completely normal for that to happen. Like, people move from one project to another one, and it doesn't mean it's in development hell. Like, that's so weird. I spoke to someone who has direct knowledge of Obsidian and how things are going there, and basically they said that the comments were seen as laughable. I mean, what more can be taken than that? I think, like, you always have to be wary when it comes to ex-employees, especially ones that were fired, because they have an axe to grind. They have a bias, maybe. So, and I'm not suggesting that was the intention behind Avallone's tweets, but, you kind of have to take him with a pinch of salt, right? I think like it's just that whole thread was weird. Like he asked Elon Musk to buy the Fallout IP. Like why? You know, like what? It's so strange. And then like went on to talk about Avowed being in development hell or implying as much. But it's just not the case. Like I've actually heard like Obsidian is one of the studios that is like probably the most on track right now. And Chris didn't know what he was talking about. He's basically what I was told.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like, and I think those kind of comments really hurt developers and studios, and it was really unprofessional of him to do that. But I think like he knows that he can do that because he's kind of an outsider in the industry now, and I don't think he's probably not seen as particularly employable after the accusations that were made against him, the allegations, which he is supposedly contesting in court.
I think he's suing the people. Yeah.
Yeah, he's suing the people who accused him, but you know, I got a load of DMs about this. People saying, "Oh, Microsoft's killing Obsidian. You know, Microsoft's screwing things up for Obsidian. Microsoft's screwing up the games. Obsidian's in trouble." But Microsoft's taking like they're doing this limited integration approach, similar to what they did with Mojang, where the studios are basically allowed to run themselves. So like, you know, Obsidian's getting what Obsidian is getting is more resources. But from what I understand is, they're doing this limited integration thing where they can basically be autonomous in how they approach these projects and stuff. So basically, we're just getting the Obsidian we've always got, only with a crap load of money. So I don't think you need to worry, man. Just wait and see. Just wait and see what Avowed's like before you get worried about that. And I get it. I get being worried because Microsoft hasn't got the greatest track record when it comes to acquisitions. Look at Lionhead. Look at Rare for many, many, many years. Rare's only just sort of hitting its stride again with Sea of Thieves and stuff like that after years of being a small Connect studio, basically. Going from making like legendary games like Banjo and, you know, Donkey Kong and stuff to go into making Connect games is a pretty stark fall for a studio like Rare, but they've got back on form now. But again, this is like, that was like the old Xbox. That was like the underfunded Xbox. That was the side project Xbox. We're in like big budget, senior leadership team, huge money, publisher acquiring Xbox. It's really not the same situation. So honestly, wait and see. The next year or two are going to really show the execution of Phil Spencer's vision for what Xbox is and what it can be. I know it's been a long, long time coming, but putting all those employees into place, getting the budgets that they need to execute that vision, and the tech and the studios, that is not something that can be achieved overnight. It's not something that can be achieved in a year or 2 years or 3 years. So, and also we had a big COVID.
True.
Big COVID crease in the middle of all that stuff. So, you know, honestly, just wait and see. Wait and see. If Avowed comes out and it sucks, then whatever. But, you know, I think if it's at least as good as like Outer Worlds, I'll be a happy man. And the fact of the matter is, they're gonna have a hell of a lot more money to play with than they had with the Outer Worlds. So, I ain't worried. I ain't worried at all about Obsidian. Obsidian's a studio I'm probably the least worried about right now when you look at everything from a bird's eye view and from what I've been hearing.
Well, I had heard that Avowed and, you know, was either on schedule or ahead of schedule. Progress was doing good. So if Obsidian's the studio that you're least concerned about, what studio's the one that you're most concerned about? Is it 343 or is it somebody else?
Most concerned about? I don't know. I mean, I think it's weird we haven't seen a peep from Compulsion, and We Happy Few was a mess. So I think Compulsion has a hell of a lot to prove. I wouldn't say I'm worried about them, but I just think they've got a lot to prove. I'm also sort of like, I do wonder about Undead Labs, because State of Decay 2 is janky as hell. And I appreciate how much they've put into updating the game and stuff like that. But when they showed the CGI trailer for State of Decay 3 left an impression on me that they want to get higher visual quality and better animation quality and stuff like that. and Undead Labs lost Jeff Strain in spring, and Jeff Strain obviously is a big name, the founder of Undead Labs, worked on World of Warcraft, founded ArenaNet and stuff like that. So you do wonder, like, what's the new leadership like and stuff like that. So I think Undead Labs has a lot to prove as well. Not really like worried, but again, a lot to prove and stuff like that. Because I do think State of Decay has like such a huge amount of untapped potential as a sort of service type game. But I don't know if Undead Labs have the expertise in house to make a persistent world game. I just don't know if they have that. Because the tethering style co-op in State of Decay 2 is just not good enough for what they're trying to do there. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But also 343, I think Halo Infinite's development cycle has been a complete mess and a huge waste of money. I feel like with better execution, not only would we have had Halo Infinite already, it would have been better quality and probably cheaper. So I think like there's something that's gone really wrong at 343 over the years. COVID probably didn't help. And like I said before, 343 was a studio not set up to deal with COVID. And also Washington was one of the early states that got slapped with COVID pandemic early, before vaccines, before the remote working systems were in place. So 343 was uniquely impacted by that stuff, I think. So I am probably most worried about 343, frankly, Rand. I feel like if Halo Infinite isn't a banger at launch, or at least above average, I think heads are going to roll, because the execution has just been subpar. I think even factoring COVID, even before COVID, things were felt like a mess at that studio. But
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. But it's the thing, we don't know what really goes on. We just we fill in the blanks with like fear and trepidation sometimes. Like I literally have no idea about 343. I got some idea about some of the studios, but I don't really have good sourcing about 343. But just seeing what they've put out openly, like, Rand, I have no idea why they thought that 2019 gameplay demo was acceptable. Was it 2019?
No, that was 2020.
2020, yeah. I have no idea why they thought the 2020 gameplay demo was acceptable. I don't know what universe they thought that was acceptable, man. I have literally no idea. Like what the hell, man?
You need to do some investigative journalism. I want to know what happened with 343 and everything surrounding it. I think it would make for a good article, good book.
That's hard work, man.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to Jason Trier.
I know.
I'm just a blogger, Rand. I'm no journalist.
Space Dovikin says, is Sawyer directing Avowed? And that answer is no. I think he's on his own game, right, Jez?
Yeah, God, I hope it's Pillars 3 bad.
He's on his own game. He's not on Avowed. Lucas says, what are the chances of Tales of Arise on Game Pass at the Tokyo Game Show? I would say probably zero. However, I could see Scarlet Nexus coming soon. They released they released that in the summer. In October is essentially the game had been out for a few months. I could totally see something like Scarlet Nexus hitting Game Pass.
I can see Tales of Arise coming to Game Pass a few months down the line, maybe. But because Bandai Namco has taken good advantage of Game Pass and stuff, and I agree with you that Scarlet Nexus is probably a good one. So, but yeah, not at launch. I don't think Tales will be there at launch. But Tales of Arise does have a decent demo on Xbox Live that's worth checking out. However, Rand, I will say, after playing, actually, can I talk about that?
I don't think you probably should.
No, I can't. But honestly, I think, I will say this: if you're a Tales fan, I would go in blind. I wouldn't play the demo, because the demo starts somewhere in the middle of the game and it doesn't really explain what's going on very well. I don't think the demo is a very good demo. I think it's I think it's better if you're a Tales fan to just go in blind and skip the demo. Personally, based on things, nothing in particular.
Yeah, nothing in particular, says Jazz. Georgie says Microsoft should sue Avalon, Xbox Explosion, and Vape for real. I don't think it's that big of a deal where they need to sue somebody over it. Michael says, are you guys concerned that future Xbox games will fall into the same trap Lots of projects are mainly first-person titles. Eh, not really. I'm sure there'll be plenty diverse stuff. Some will be first-person, some will be
Fable.
third-person.
Yeah, Fable and Hellblade are third-person, surely, right?
I think Fable's third-person. Avowed's first-person. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Avowed's first-person, isn't it?
Avowed? Yeah, Avowed is first-person. Did I say third?
Yeah.
I meant to say Fable's third. Right? I
Fable's
think.
third.
But and Avowed would be first. George says Sawyer isn't working on Pillars after 2 bombed hard.
Yeah, I do remember that actually.
So
yeah, it just sucks, man.
Why
did Pillars 2 bomb? I don't get it.
I don't know either.
Bad?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But anyways,
play that.
It's time to talk about Xbox Smart Delivery and how it basically makes PlayStation look bad.
Yeah.
Man.
I'll let you take the lead on this.
Well, okay, let's talk
you
about.
Put out that lovely video.
Let's talk about good, and that's PlayStation Showcase. They got Showcase on Thursday. They announced it a week ahead of time, and it's not a state of play, so it's a little bit more media experience. Going to be about 40 minutes long. I think it's Thursday at like 1 p.m. Pacific, so 3 p.m. It's basically going to be their E3 equivalent show. And you know, people are hyping it up on Twitter. I see like David Jaffe and a bunch of like PlayStation executives or PlayStation, you know, people who work at PlayStation being like, yeah, this is going to be the show. So yeah, I'm expecting it to be a big show. They got a lot of things they need to showcase, you know, God of War gameplay for the first time. Gran Turismo probably going to be there. Maybe even a chance Spider-Man 2 shows up potentially if Insomniac is ready. Although if Spider-Man 2 shows up, maybe that's more of a logo announcement rather than like a full gameplay thing. And then whatever, you know, third-party deals they might have, money hats, you know. I wonder if we see Deathloop again because that game's about to ready to come out. Kenna is coming out soon, so we probably see a launch trailer or something like that. So yeah, I'm expecting them to show what they have for next year and maybe even 2023. I think you probably see Final Fantasy 16 again. Maybe even a demo drops for Spoken. I think you'll probably see that again, and maybe even get a release date for it. So I mean, there's potentially can be a lot. Stevie says Factions 2. Maybe Naughty Dog shows up. I mean, it's possible. There's a lot of rumors floating around, like Metal Gear Solid remake or whatever, and I did hear the Metal Gear thing was real years ago, so I'm still assuming it's real. I don't know if it's exclusive or not, but that is something I do think is being worked on, but who knows when it will get unveiled. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what God of War looks like. There's rumors that it's a 40-hour game, Jez. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I'm not going to play it, so.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you don't play good games. I forgot about that.
What are you talking about? I play strategy games all the time.
Yeah. So I think the showcase is going to be pretty cool. Silent Hill, although I know people have been talking about Silent Hill. I don't know how excited people are going to be when its Bloober Team is revealed as the one making Silent Hill, because you know Bloober Team is like one of those studios where it's either you like it or you love it. And, you know, Medium was kind of one of those, it does some cool things, but then does some things bad. So it'd be interesting to see their take on Silent Hill. So we'll see. We'll see what next week brings for PlayStation. But it's weird because it's almost like Sony knew they were going to get some backlash. So, like, they announced the showcase, but then they also announced the Horizon pre-order upgrade stuff. And it almost is like they wanted the story to sort of be buried by the showcase announcement, but people just latched on to this Horizon thing because of, you know, quote unquote lies, which is what I have in the title, because who knows if it's a lie. Like people are saying Sony lied about it, which I don't necessarily think is true if you actually read the PlayStation blog where they mention launch games will have a free upgrade, and Horizon isn't a launch game, but that's kind of just it's a whole weird situation. So basically, what's happening is Horizon. If you're someone on the PlayStation, you want to get an upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version, you have to plan ahead, right? You have to plan ahead and buy the $80 digital version. So you're paying $20 more than what you would normally pay on PlayStation and $10 more than what the game is going on PlayStation 5. And that's for digital. Physical, the only version that comes with both versions is the $200 and $250 version. So people who actually like to collect their games, they're kind of getting a raw end of the stick, right? And this is a counter in the contrast to what Xbox does with Smart Delivery, where there is no fee. You know, Halo Infinite's going to work on whatever system you buy. If you buy it on the Xbox One and play it there, and then a month later you get the Series X, it just works and you get the better version. And people talked about how it was just marketing buzzwords and really didn't mean anything. And now you're finding out like, yeah, no, it actually means something. People worked really hard on getting that feature set up and running and working across all the platforms, even including PC, because the Xbox first party games also are play anywhere. So you'll be able to play it on Windows 10 PC. And your saves just work. You can play Halo Infinite on your freaking PC, take it to mobile, take it to your Series X, take it to your Xbox One. You only got to pay once, and everything just works flawlessly. But then Sony, for whatever reason, they have their own way, where, you know, if you bought Spider-Man Miles Morales on PS5, you get a PS4 version for free, and people thought they would do it for Horizon because in the blog it said, hey, we're offering these upgrades from PS4 to PS5. They do condition it with launch games, which Horizon isn't. So people will say, well, you know, Sony technically isn't lying. However, there is an interview with Jim Ryan where I love Jim Ryan. You want to know why? Because he's a quote machine, Jez. He just says, like, remember when he said, hey, backwards compatibility, like, why would anybody play these old games and stuff like that, right? He just says things, you know, we believe in generations, right? That whole thing. That kind of just blew up in everybody's face because they assumed he meant everything was going to be exclusive, and that's not exactly what happened. But he said, regarding the announcements in September of last year about Horizon and Spider-Man Miles Morales being cross-gen, he said that nobody should be disappointed, which I agree with. Nobody should be disappointed. The PS5 versions of those games are built from the ground up to take advantage of the PS5's feature set, and we have an upgrade path for PS4 users to get the PS5 versions for free. So that is something Big Jimbo said. Hey, we got an upgrade path. You get the PS4 version or the PS5 version for, you know, our users on the PS4, right? So their messaging isn't clear. They're kind of a little, they're trying to finesse people. They're using a little misdirection. But then my guy Jimbo says it's about people having choice. I'm really quite pleased with the situation. So, you know, what happened to choice, Jim? What happened to choice, Big Jimbo?
Choice.
So like, did it only matter in 2020 when people were upgrading from PS4 to PS5? Does it not apply after a year? Like, I don't know. Like, you read that and you're like, okay, well, this dude literally says they have an upgrade path for PS4 users to get the PS5 version for free, and then he says it's all about choice, and he's quite pleased with the situation. And then a year later is like, well, no, Horizon doesn't have a free upgrade path. You can't even pay $10. Because if you're somebody who buys the PS4 or somebody who doesn't even know, like, they don't know about this information because then everybody was on Twitter. Not everybody reads the gaming news websites. And you're on a PS4 and you buy Horizon and you get it for PS4 because you didn't think ahead to spend an extra $20. And then you get the PlayStation 5. Sure, you can put in your PS4 disc and play the PS4 version on your PS5, but you'd have to buy a new PS. So you'd have to double dip. So it's like they're trying to monetize their unaware PlayStation users and sort of force them either to buy the game twice or get them to pay more upfront. And if you're someone who likes physical, they're trying to get you to buy a $200 version. Say what you will about what it says in the PlayStation blog about launch games, right? But when you're the head and you're out here talking about how nobody should be disappointed and that there's an upgrade path, and then it's saying it's all about choice and he's quite pleased, but then not give the choice to Horizon a year later, it just makes you look like you're straight up Jim Lion Ryan. I'm sorry. Like it's not a good look for him, because this isn't the first time stuff like this has happened. And it just further shines the spotlight on what Xbox is doing and how consumer friendly the entire smart delivery program was, and how at the beginning of the generation everybody says it means nothing, it's just marketing buzzword, blah 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 blah. Sony will have their own version, and after all the stuff and save files shenanigans on PlayStation with like Avengers and all these other things, like finally it's getting the credit that it deserves. And they should offer a free upgrade. One of those special editions should offer it. If you don't want to give a free upgrade, you should at least be like, hey, if you bought the $60 version of this game on the PlayStation 4, because Toshiba's saying that, there's going to be shortages until September of next year, so not everybody that wants to get a PlayStation can get a PlayStation. If you bought it for $60, at least offer a small $10 upgrade to get it for, on the PlayStation 5, and then it conflicts with what they're doing. Like, you have Death Stranding that is doing a different upgrade path for $10. Ghost of Tsushima is doing a different upgrade path that's $30. And then this one is doing it's this weird inconsistent messaging for their games. And then you look at the quotes, just like people will take Phil Spencer's quotes and say he's lying. It's like you directly look at Jim Ryan's quotes here and just be like, what is going on? Maybe you shouldn't do as many interviews as this. And if you're saying it's about choice, maybe it should really be about choice. And I know some people say, well, Horizon, whatever, it's a really expensive game. I'm happy to pay Sony the money, whatever they want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, dude, Sony made $25 million last year. They can afford it. Like, they made more money. They made the most money than they ever made in the PlayStation's history. The most money ever a platform holder has made. So don't tell me Sony's, doesn't have it, because they clearly do. And it's not like that many people would do the upgrade. It just further goes to show you that I think they don't really respect some of their fan base. That I think they think this people wouldn't be outraged about this or upset about it enough to the point where people would complain. That announcing it the same day as the PlayStation Showcase and teasing new reveals and big new games is enough. And, for some it is, because I definitely saw a lot of people damage controlling it and, oh, blah, 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 they never said this or they didn't do this, and I'm happy paying $70 for greatness, blah, 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 whatever. I did see some PlayStation fans stand up and say, nope, this is horrible, this needs to be fixed. I understand these corporations aren't our friends. They're out here to make money. But when you have one who's doing a consumer-friendly policy, and then they have another who doesn't, it doesn't matter that quote-unquote, well, Xbox is only doing this because they were in last place last generation. Well, that's exactly the point. Xbox got beat down and had to do better, and this is one of the ways they're doing it. And I recall PlayStation facing a similar thing during the PS3 era, where they were beat down and they had to do better, and they did. I think this is one of those just arrogant things that Sony thinks they can get away with, because they don't think people would really complain that much, because some of their fan base is perfectly okay paying whatever amount of money it is for the game. They probably would. If Sony came out and said Horizon Forbidden West is $150, they'd probably be like, that's fine. As long as it's greatness, who cares? Like, I'm perfectly happy spending money and supporting developers in that. Blah, 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 blah. But now this needs to be fixed. There needs to be some way. You can't say it's about choice and take away the choice, Jimbo. I'm sorry. Like, it's a pretty shitty thing to do for a company that made $25 billion and for some reason can't offer a free upgrade to people who can't get a PlayStation 5. Like, I don't know. Sorry for the rant there, Jez. What do you think about this?
Man, it's just sort of like what it does. It reveals a little bit about Sony's strategy, I think. Microsoft's like both Sony and Microsoft, to compare them for the sake of it. Let's just look at Sony and Microsoft. There's also Nintendo, there's Google Stadia, whatever, Steam. But let's just look at Sony and Microsoft for the sake of argument. Both companies are publicly traded. Both companies need to deliver growth. Microsoft has a very diverse portfolio of businesses the way it can do this. They have Azure and Office and Windows and all that shit, as we all know. And also their growth path for Xbox is to move beyond the console install base, look to mobile, look to TVs, look to finding new users who maybe aren't necessarily historically interested in gaming, or maybe even like new markets where Microsoft hasn't traditionally been very successful, such as Asia, maybe Europe and stuff like that. That's where Microsoft is looking. And you can look at games like Stalker 2. Stalker is a hugely popular franchise in Eastern Europe, and that Microsoft getting that as an exclusive was a very strategic decision to make, and they will use that to push Xbox Game Pass as well. So that's where Microsoft's looking. Microsoft's looking for Xbox Game Pass and new devices for growth. Whereas Sony, they aren't really doing the same thing. They're releasing a few games on PC, but they're not going all in on PC. They have their PlayStation Plus thing and their PlayStation Now thing, but they're not going all in on it. Sony's strategy right now is to get more of the console market share away from PlayStation, away from Xbox, and away from Nintendo. Mostly Xbox. So PlayStation's strategy right now is we need to grow using console users. So if Sony isn't really looking to make money outside of their user base or outside of the console user base, they need to generate growth in other ways. And this is one such way you can generate growth, is to monetize your existing users, right? So I think it sort of reveals a sort of almost like a gamble there. Sony have like decided that the negativity that they've gotten and the backlash, which honestly isn't that big, is worth the extra few millions they're going to get from doing it this way. And there has been some backlash, like you say, Rand. But I think most people don't give a fuck. This is gonna be forgotten next week. Everyone, Horizon Zero Dawn upgrade will sell a ton amount of copies and stuff like that. But I think like it's kind of like a mana pool or hit points. Every time you make these negative decisions which screw people over, you sort of chip away at your hit points. And there's only so much bullshit someone will accept before you're out of hit points. So I think like it is a gamble doing these negative decisions, and it was clearly calculated that they dropped this bad news before washing it away with the good news, which is going to be Sony's State of Play, which is going to have loads of great games, and remind everyone why they invest in PlayStation in the first place, which is high quality exclusives, which Sony arguably is the best at, arguably. So I don't know. I think this is and also, Rand, I do think it's kind of like, while we do have smart delivery today, I do think there's a future where if the market accepts the $70 game, Microsoft's going to have to do the same thing. Because if Ubisoft, EA, and Sony, and Nintendo maybe too, when they release a Switch Pro, if all these companies are selling $70 games and Microsoft isn't selling $70 games, Microsoft is leaving money on the table, because the market has said we accept $70 games. So, and that is Microsoft doing something for nothing. They're not getting any return for pricing their games lower at that point. When everyone accepts a $70 game, Microsoft will follow suit as well. So I think it's all well and good to, like, you know, speak up about how great smart delivery is. But I do think, like, as we get further into the gen, we're going to see those $60 games go away completely. I think everything's going to be $70 2 or 3 years.
I wouldn't be shocked if Starfield's $70.
Yeah. Mate, is Starfield next gen only?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would not be surprised if the like Redfall and Starfield and any of the games that are next gen only are $70 because I do expect the entire video game industry to adopt the $70 price point.
I think Microsoft is often, they're more thoughtful with their price points. I think like State of Decay they knew was not a $60 game, so they offered it for $30 and $40. I think with a $40 expansion edition or whatever. They knew Minecraft Dungeons wasn't a $60 game, so they offered it cheaper, and they knew Recall wasn't a $60 game, so they offered it cheaper. I do think Microsoft is more generous when it comes to some of that stuff, especially when you look at companies like Activision, who, like, you know, how many years has it been since Overwatch launched? And I think like it only just had its first few sales this year, you know, and it was like $60 for like several years and stuff like that. Because the market said they'd pay for it. The market said, we'll pay $60 for Overwatch. And the market's going to look at Horizon Zero Dawn and they're going to say, we'll pay $70 for Horizon Zero Dawn on PS5. Because ultimately, the install base of PlayStation 5 and Xbox right now, it's not the casual audience, it's the hardcore audience. Only the hardcore audience has managed to buy these consoles. Only the hardcore audience has ponied up the dough to get a console from the scalpers, you know. These consoles are like, the stock levels are really bad. Nowhere near meeting demand. So I think like that is probably going to sort of emphasize the fact that get away with $70 games. Because right now it's all skewed up towards the hardcore. So, but the thing is, Rand, where this diverges a bit, Starfield, sure, maybe Starfield will be $70, but it's also going to be on Game Pass. So for Microsoft, they have the value option is there, you know, for people who want to like collect the games on disc or whatever and buy the collector's edition and stuff. They'll pay up the money anyway, like they've always done, you know. But for the value option, Xbox Game Pass is undeniable. For people who want to experience Starfield without spending $70, they're going to have that option, you know. And I do think, Rand, there is going to be a future, I believe, where you won't even need necessarily to buy Game Pass Ultimate to use xCloud. I think there's a future where, like Google Stadia, you will be able to buy Starfield and just play it from the cloud without having, you know, the full-blown Game Pass Ultimate. I think right now, because Game Pass xCloud is still in beta technically, and I do think there's a future where they use the Stadia model where you can buy the game outright and play it from the cloud. And I do think that's the future for Microsoft games at retail, is they'll be like cloud-based and stuff. And that'll be how you get the game on Xbox One, because they're bringing xCloud to Xbox One to bring those devices into the future, you know. And there's going to be a streaming stick. There's going to be a mini Xbox console, which is just purely cloud. So, you know, all this stuff is going to happen. But again, Microsoft can say, well, we are going to have the value option there. Whereas Sony, for some reason, they don't want to go all in on that. And maybe it's because like they've crunched the numbers and decided, you know, unless they want to start putting microtransactions in their games and having upsell and stuff, I think like maybe it doesn't work for them. But you know, Starfield's going to have a creator content store. You know, they're going to sell mods and stuff and have points, and there's going to be things you can buy in Starfield, like the creator economy, which you've got in Skyrim and Fallout and stuff, where the, you know, modders can make and sell their mods, and then Bethesda gets a cut and whatever. So, I think that's the way it's going to go. So while smart delivery is cool right now, there is going to be a time where you can't buy a game at retail on Xbox One. The only way to get it on Xbox One is 100% using the cloud, and there'll be $70 games to buy outright or through Xbox Game Pass, which is absurd value. So, but yeah, and I think like, you know, Sarah Miller in chat just said like, $60 helps grow the player base and increases when, you know, mommy or granny buys little Timmy their console as it's cheaper. You know, that is a great point, because for like a huge section of the market, value is ultimately all that matters, and I think that's why like the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X of like having a doubled up SKU. You got the Xbox Series S with Game Pass or Xbox All Access. That is the option you buy for your kids, right? They don't need a 4K TV. They don't need all the bells and whistles that come with an Xbox Series X. So like, there's the cheap option. So Microsoft can sort of do both, and I think that's a better growth strategy than what Sony seems to be doing right now, which is plowing full ahead with these very expensive games, which are becoming less and less sustainable without microtransactions. So it's just sort of indicative of the way the industry's going. But I do think Microsoft will follow on the $70 games eventually. But it just goes to show, Rand, just to cap this off and round out the discussion, that when everyone said smart delivery was a gimmick, sure as hell doesn't look like a gimmick now.
Well, it's just everybody called EA and Activision and 2K greedy for when they make you buy the more expensive versions to get like both versions, right?
Yeah.
And Sony's basically doing a version of that as well. And you can make the argument, at least it's understandable from EA and Activision's perspective, because they have to pay, 30% to Microsoft and Sony to sell their games on the platform. Horizon Zero Dawn or Forbidden West is Sony's game. They don't gotta pay anybody anything. It's all them. So like the idea that they can't offer free upgrade, whether it's like a small $10 one, but somehow like, oh no, pay us $20 extra or buy the game again, is just, I think it's ridiculous. Especially when you look at like, what big dance moves Jim Ryan's talking about, choice and things like that. It's like it feels just grimy. It feels greedy, and it feels like Sony felt this was just going to just disappear, and that people would be talking about the showcase and what they have to offer, and not talking about, how their upgrade plan for Horizon is just kind of just greedy, just like EA and Activision's are. So, yeah, at least I think you put out a tweet that basically summed it up. He's like, man, I'm glad I don't have to worry about this as an Xbox PC fan. Because you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about it.
It's funny because PC gamers are eating the best, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine a world where you have to pay a microtransaction to get unlock 4K resolution on PC? Ugh. It would never fucking happen. It just would never happen.
Yeah.
So,
And another thing,
then again, at the same time, I don't want to deal with the blue screens of death. Because like there was a Windows update this week, cumulative update from Windows 10, and now my PC blue screens when I play in Final Fantasy 14 for some reason. So
maybe that's me.
That's what you have to. You're hacking me, Rand?
Yeah, I'm hacking you so you don't play Final Fantasy 14.
I will. I barely played it this week. I kind of got burned out, man. I played it too much, and I was like, I kind of want to play someone else now.
That's kind of what happens, man.
It is, yeah.
Michael says, Halo, Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6, Outer Worlds 2, Avowed, future Fallout, future Doom, Sea of Thieves. Just saying, most of the big AAA titles are first person. Definitely hope they keep diversifying.
That's
and he
fair.
says he also forgot Perfect Dark. And, we got one here from Sicka Mechanico of Xbox Era, who are doing their show in 20 minutes. Can't think of an interesting question. So when does #acquisition season end, Rand? Love you guys. Yeah, when does it end? How long is the season?
I have to tune into Xbox Era to find out, maybe.
Yeah, maybe the answer to that question will be given later on today during Xbox Era's podcast. Space Dovekin says, Sony built a really strong cult this last gen. And Flame says, complaints mean nothing if pre-orders are booming. Can't tell a company they suck and then hand over your money in the same moment. It's disappointing. I think Sony might actually. I think they might change this one, honestly. So, yeah. You know what? I think that's probably a good spot to end the show. If you guys have any questions you want to hit us up with, make sure you put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. I want to thank everyone for being here on Saturday. We really appreciate it. I think we hit over 1,000. Which is always awesome. I will say, like, I did watch Austin Evans' new video where he talked about getting doxxed, Jez, because of what he said about the new PS5. What did you think about that?
Oh yeah, man. I feel bad for Austin Evans there because like it's clear that that was just like it's clear from the video that was like his first impression. I mean, obviously the logic is smaller heatsink, more heat generation. You know,
Mm.
that's kind of logical, right? And then he was just reporting on the facts of the matter. You know, 5 degrees isn't going to make or break a console. It's not going to make or break a GPU. You know, I think like these GPUs can handle temperatures like anywhere up to, you know, way more than what they run at anyway. I had like for the Xbox Series X, we had a thermal imaging camera someone sent me, so I could take like photographs of the Xbox heating up and stuff. And I think it was running at like 15 degrees cooler than my laptop. So you know, um, it's neither here nor there at the end of the day. But I think it is cringe how sensitive people get about their plastic toys, right?
Mm.
If Austin Evans did a teardown of the Xbox Series X, because consoles get design revisions all the time to make them easy to manufacture, to make the costs lower and stuff like that. And clearly, like Sony, like a smaller heatsink probably means slightly better margins or whatever. So like maybe they're cheaper to make and without affecting performance. You know, without its stringent testing, don't know for sure, but they did this all through the PS3 era. All through the PS3 era, they had tons of model revisions. Like as soon as like after like 6 months and then a year and then another year, they had like slight model revisions of the PS3 throughout its whole lifespan. Like I've still got the original PS3 model which had like the full PS2 backwards compatibility. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And then that went away in the future model updates. But I don't know. But like I say, if Austin Evans released a video saying that the new Xbox Series X model or whatever, just imagining, was 5 degrees C hotter or whatever, it wouldn't even register in my head to me as a thought. I might think, oh, that's interesting, and then forget about it instantly. I wouldn't think to fucking dox the guy. What the hell? And the worst thing is, Rand, you know these are grown ass men doing it, probably with kids.
Of course.
Cringe as hell.
40-year-old dudes with kids, 100%.
Yeah. It's so damn cringe.
All
man.
because he said that in his initial findings that it ran hotter, so it might run into issues down the road if you keep it like enclosed. But hey, grown ass men in their console war plastic had to like get super upset and dox the guy, which is honestly pathetic. Virgil says, "Hey, Rand and Jez, do you guys have any clue why devs that had issues with old Xbox leadership still have issues with Xbox despite having new leadership and only hearing positives of working with them?" I mean, I don't have any clue. I would imagine it's... Well, Obsidian must have worked over theirs because Microsoft canceled one of Obsidian's games, which forced them to go into Kickstarter. So
I think like Phil's sort of like this. It's in business. Sometimes things just aren't personal, right? I mean, Microsoft was underfunding Xbox back in the day, so it wasn't a case of like we're going to cancel your game to screw you over. It was a case of we're going to cancel your game because we're strapped for cash, and risk right now is not something we can deal with in any sort of great amount. So like things are different now. Phil's at the leadership table, and they're getting a huge amount of investment from Microsoft. They've got a huge amount of flow. Like, look at the share price. Go on Yahoo Money or some other share price website, and then zoom out and look at the share price between Steve Ballmer's 10 years CEO and then Satya Nadella. It's a completely different company. Like, Microsoft was down and out. They were struggling really hard to attract any interest and to attract relevancy. And then over time, Microsoft has pivoted and gotten back on top, So it's a completely different company, a completely different situation, completely different strategy. And like you can say like, yeah, Microsoft maybe screwed Obsidian over in the past, but that is the past. It's a different company now. Same brand, but brands aren't people, It might be the same brand. It might still be Xbox. It might still be Microsoft, but there's a completely different team running the show, So, and ultimately, the owners of the studio got a big payout. So
Yeah, that's true. That does help at
that's
the end of the day. Sophie wants to know if you think Final Fantasy 14 will come to Xbox, as they don't really like the PS4 lately.
Man, it's really hard to say. I think one of the things that was stopping Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox was the content delivery rules. So like Microsoft wasn't allowing devs to update their games without certifying their updates first, which created a workflow issue for Final Fantasy 14 and some other games, frankly. Because Final Fantasy 14 is a game where they have to update every version simultaneously. The PlayStation version and the PC version have to be updated simultaneously. And Sony allows developers to do that. They allow developers to certify their own updates, whereas Microsoft doesn't. And I suppose, in a way, because Microsoft's a cloud company, they take security a little bit more seriously, maybe in some ways. But they're lifting that restriction. So hopefully, with that restriction being gone, that opens the pathway for Final Fantasy 14 to come to Xbox. But ultimately, I don't know. I think like porting a game like Final Fantasy has a huge amount of complexity. You've got like the storefront to factor in DLC and control inputs and achievements and stuff like that. It's not a trivial amount of work porting an MMO, and also you have to make servers, and you know it's and as we saw this past summer when World of Warcraft exploded and started being super really bad, the amount of people that shifted from World of Warcraft over to Final Fantasy killed Final Fantasy's login servers. And like, you have to remember, we're in a chip shortage right now. Chip shortage doesn't just mean we don't have enough consoles. Square Enix is struggling to buy servers for Final Fantasy 14. Like, literally, every server has a queue right now, all the time, because they can't buy enough servers. So if you bring Final Fantasy 14 to Xbox and you don't have the servers in place for like the thousands of extra players you're bringing in, that could bring down the whole game. So porting an MMO is not a trivial proposition, and you know, I do think it'll happen, but it's going to take time, man. But who knows? Maybe it gets announced at Square Enix's event, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's coming.
John Gale says, what you think you've heard about the Alan Wake remaster that just leaked? I think we've heard that it's real and that it's going to be announced very, very soon, maybe even this week sometime.
Yeah.
And I think it's coming to, because I have another question here about if it'd be exclusive to Xbox. No, it's coming to PS5 and Xbox. I think Remedy got the publishing rights back or the IP back from Microsoft. So it's their baby. So yeah, it's going to come out and everything, because I think it's going to be the lead into Alan Wake 2 eventually coming in the future, which is going to be amazing. Nia wants to know, when do you think we'll get a Crossfire X release date? I don't know. That's a good question. They said
coming at the end of the year, supposedly, right?
Well, they said coming soon, 2021. So I don't know, sometime soon. But then again, if the Alan Wake thing is, Alan Wake is coming out in a month supposedly. So I'm sure they can just announce that Crossfire X is coming beginning of October at any point in time, because it's a free to play game. So people are just going to download it because it's free. It doesn't really need to be super marketed heavy because it's a $60 purchase. It's just something that's just going to be available for you to download and play. I mean, look at Splitgate. Splitgate finally came to Xbox and PlayStation, and it's like super huge, but there wasn't really a huge marketing push for it. It was just like, hey, it's coming, and then it was there to download, and people just started playing it. So I don't really think you need that big of a push for something that's a free-to-play game, right, Jez?
Yeah. I mean, is the campaign free-to-play?
No, the campaign, I think, is... I want to say they've talked about it, and it's going to be tied to the Season Pass or Battle Pass, where if you want to play the campaign, you have to buy the Battle Pass or something. Some weird thing like that. But I don't really... I'm not 100% on that, but... Let's see what else we got here. EFA Spartan says, is indie going to lead until the end of this year? Do you think it will stop once AAA games roll out? Well, I don't think indie games are going anywhere. We got more people making games, so more indie games going. I think with AAA games taking longer and longer to make, I think indie games are just going to just fill out that gap. We've seen like early next year already has a lot of AAA games lined up, but I still think because of how long it takes to make a big AAA game these days, that it's still going to be the indie games are what you're going to be playing in between the big releases. So,
Yeah.
V-Nexus says, what are your predictions on the PlayStation event? Well, we kind of talked about that earlier, but I mean, I expect to see God of War. I expect to see probably a new trailer for Horizon. There'll probably be Final Fantasy 16, Forspoken, maybe release dates for both of those titles. I think are both set for 2022, so next year. Probably a new trailer for Gran Turismo 7. I'm sure Sony has other marketing deals. Probably a new trailer for Call of Duty Vanguard, since they're the marketing partner for them. But I know people want to know about their first party studios, so certainly possible you could see a logo for Spider-Man 2, although I don't think that's really likely. I really haven't sat down to thought about what could be at the PlayStation event. Because I don't think Sucker Punch is ready to show anything. It's possible we see factions from Naughty Dog. They might be ready to announce it. But this is their big E3 event, so I do think they're going to have a lot to show, because they're going to talk about what's coming, essentially what's coming in 2022, and probably what's coming in 2023 is probably...
My God.
What?
I just realized it's 2022 next year.
I know, right? It's kind of crazy.
I haven't even registered that it's not 2020 yet. 2022? What the?
I know, right?
Oh God.
Whittier says, great show. Jez, what is with the sponsorship of the England football team? Will Wembley be renamed Microsoft Stadium? Will Scotland and Wales be DLC? That was actually a topic, but we didn't get to it. But yeah, I was like, Xbox is the official gaming partner of England, but you brought it up, so is that a big thing, Jez?
Dude, I have no idea. Does this mean like they get Xbox logos on their t-shirts or something? I do know huge amount of soccer fandom in Microsoft. And I think that's because like the Seattle Sounders, the football team, they are owned by the founder of Microsoft, Paul Allen. I think, if I remember right. So, like, I think there's some synergy between Microsoft and soccer because of the Seattle Sounders. So they are fans, and like the Sounders sponsor is Xbox. Like the Seattle Sounders have Xbox on their jerseys, as you say in America. We call them football strips, I believe. But I have no idea. I don't know what it means. Like, I don't think it means they get Xbox logos on their t-shirts, but maybe it does. I don't know. I don't get it. It was so random. Like, and that day, Rand, I was doing a search on Bing, because I use Bing, not Google, because I am sophisticated. Sophisticated people use Bing, not Google. And there was a huge England Xbox banner all over Google. And I was just like, what is this? This is so random. But whatever, maybe it'll convince some England fans to buy Xbox.
Maybe.
I don't because England almost won the World Cup. They were in the final. First time they've been in the final for a million years. So it raised England's profile a bit in the football world. So I think the next time England's in a big tournament, there'll be a lot more eyeballs on them because the team's really good right now. So I don't know.
Brett says people are getting more sensitive about their choice of console than people are about Ford versus Chevy in the southern United States. Yeah. Arafat says, Rand Jez, when will Xbox support third world countries like mine? Game Pass Ultimate just sweeten the deal for the middle class family. That's what kind of Jez always talks about on Twitter. Like, Microsoft has aspirations to be this global company, or Xbox, reach 3 billion gamers, but sometimes they can't do like localization properly for other countries. It's like if you want to be that, everywhere, you're gonna have to just worry more about U.S. and the U.K. and the English-speaking countries, right? I don't know. What else? Face wants to know if I'm tempering my expectations for the PlayStation Showcase. No, I don't. No, I mean, I don't have like out of control expectations for the PlayStation Showcase. Like I said, I think Sony's gonna show what they have for next year and what they have for 2023. I'm looking forward to seeing what God of War looks like and plays like, and yeah, I'm excited to check it out.
I just want to add, by the way, it was the Euros, not the World Cup.
So like I wasn't expecting anything from Gamescom or Tokyo Game Show from Xbox, and my expectations were a little bit lower for Xbox's E3, but they completely blew my expectations out of the water for that show. And yeah, this isn't the state of play. They named it the PlayStation Showcase for a reason. They announced it a week in advance for a reason. So, you know, I think it's going to be a cool thing. So.
Do you think maybe they could give an update on Ghostwire? Maybe. Oh, actually, no, because that's a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah, PlayStation.
But maybe Ghostwire could be at the PlayStation show. Maybe
it very well could be. We haven't seen it in a bit. I mean,
yeah.
Sony paid good money for Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop, and that's why they always show up at the Deathloop has always showed up at the Sony things, because Sony paid it a mint. Because you did see that information that came out that Microsoft paid $100 million for Tomb Raider, right?
What 100 million?
Yeah, there was an article. It was one of the guys on LinkedIn.
What?
Yeah, basically came out.
That doesn't seem worth it at all.
Well, yeah, you could fund a lot of games for that, but yeah, it basically came out that he helped make the deal for Tomb Raider and Square Enix, which was worth $100 million. So that's a lot of money, and I would imagine the Sony's got a bunch of money hats that they're doing, so they're spending a lot of money on that too. And Microsoft is trying to counter that with like owning studios. So September we get the PlayStation Showcase, and maybe acquisition season happens for Xbox, and they announce more studios or maybe a publisher. Who knows?
Who knows?
Let's see here. Detroit Reaper says, how do you feel about PlayStation fans using completion rates in Psychonauts 2 to diss Xbox players for not finishing games? Does Game Pass hurt these rates? 100% Game Pass hurts completion rates, because anybody can try a game out and stop playing it at any point in time because they don't have any skin in the game, so to speak. So yes, it does hurt those statistics.
I think when I was playing Pillars of Eternity, every single achievement, every single one, even the easy ones, are rare achievements. Even the achievements where it's like, kill a mob, even those are rare achievements. So I do think the whole rare achievement system and Microsoft giving websites access to use the APIs, I think that hurts games, because it makes people say oh look, no one's playing these games, only 1% of players got the achievement to kill a mouse or whatever. Yeah, that's because tons and tons of people installed the game, but they didn't play it, because it's free to do. I've installed tons of games on my Xbox. I've installed tons of games and just never gotten around to play them because of Game Pass. So I'm contributing to that as well. But I think Microsoft really does need to look at that achievement rarity thing, and also put restrictions on what they allow third-party websites to do with the achievements API, because it is creating these narratives that people don't complete the games, But it counts every single person who installs the game through Game Pass. Every single person counts as a player, which is inaccurate, So whatevs.
I finished Psychonauts 2, so whatever.
I didn't. Not yet.
But yeah, that's the end of the show, guys. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. If you're new, notification bell will always let you know whenever the show's live. You can follow me and Jez on Twitter, so you're always updated. And Jez will have this out on the podcast apps like iTunes and Google Play, if that's where you prefer to listen. If you want, do us a big favor, give us a review. 5 stars is preferable, but hey, speak your mind. If you want to give it a 1 star, that's your prerogative. So thank you guys for being here. We'll be back next week, hopefully on Friday, to talk about a lot more stuff. Probably talk about the PlayStation event, because that'll happen the day before. And who knows what other cool things will happen. So yeah, take it easy, guys, and keep it gaming. Later.
Take care, everybody.